Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I, Riddhi Goswami,
And I, Ashutosh Patnaik,
welcome all esteemed guests, distinguished speakers, corporate delegates, respected faculty members, and dear friends to the 12th Mega HR Conclave of KIIT on the theme Rise of Phygital, the new HR 4.1. I request the dignitaries to inaugurate the conclave by lighting the inaugural lamp.
today we are honored to have with us an assembly of business leaders, academicians, and students for the 12th Mega HR Conclave.
KIIT, deemed to be university, India's first 5-star rated university in QS ratings of 2021, is amongst the top 10 private institutions in India to have received the Institution of Eminence status by the Ministry of HRD, Government of India. It has been ranked number 1 among self-financing institutions of the country in the Atal ranking of institutions on innovation achievements 2020. Excelling not only in terms of education, but also in sports and extracurriculars, 3 students from the university proudly represented India at the Tokyo Olympics 2020. To welcome the guests, we have Professor Dr. S.K. Mahapatra, Director, KIIT School of Management. Dr. Mahapatra has held leadership positions for over a decade in renowned corporate groups in India like Tata, Bajaj and Jindal, including Navratna PSU SAIL and multinational POSCO. He is an alumnus of Delhi University and MDI Gurgaon and holds a doctorate from Utkal University. He is widely acknowledged as an HR thought leader, strategist, and turnaround specialist. Sir, kindly welcome the guests. Respected director, sir, you're on mute. Yes, sir.
Namaskar. Good morning to all. Honorable Founder, Professor Dr. Achyuta Samanta, esteemed Vice Chancellor, Professor Hrishikesh Mohanty, Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Sasmita Samanta, keynote speakers, esteemed Mr. Milind Ojha, Executive Chairman, Ulangan Coal, and Mr. K. Narayan, President Raymond's, President HR Raymond's, all the panel speakers, workshop speakers, my dear friend Dr. Sanjay Muthal, CEO of Contemper, which is our knowledge partner, fellow directors, deans, colleagues in the faculty, guests, and my colleagues in the administration, and my dear students. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the 12th edition of our International Mega HR Conclave. 12 years ago, we started this journey with a national conclave. Last year, when the pandemic struck us, we decided to take the stage bigger, and we converted it to an international mega HR conclave, inviting hundreds of speakers because technology made it possible. And I'm delighted that today we have got the blessings of more than 100 speakers here today. KIIT School of Management, the flagship of KIIT University, along with several schools of technology, School of Law, School of Biotechnology, we have organized this conclave on a contemporary theme, as you would notice. We do organize this kind of conclaves in different domain areas like business analytics, finance, supply chain, marketing, and already this year we have organized 2 conclaves, one on business analytics and one on marketing. And very soon we'll be organizing conclaves in finance and supply chain and other areas. Today we have, just after this session, one international panel discussion, and we have 9 concurrent panel discussions to follow in the forenoon, in the pre-lunch session. In the afternoon, we have 50 workshops planned for our students. Overall, more than 100 speakers who are eminent thought leaders, practitioners of HR in different sectors. They will be speaking at these sessions and they will be leading these workshops. So at the outset itself, I express immense gratitude to all of them. Over 3,500 students took part in pre-conclave competitions. We normally organize 2 types of competition. One set of competition for undergrad students and one set of competitions for postgraduate students. One set is the quizzes and the other set is the simulations, business simulation games. You'll be very happy to know over 3,500 students from over 300 schools, institutes and colleges, they took part in this year's competition, and the quality of their participation has been quite overwhelming. As you would notice from the conclave itinerary, the theme of the conclave is contemporary. It bothers every one of us. For the last 2 years, the world, the life, everything has been turned upside down. Everybody has been struggling. But there are few silver linings. Most of the speakers that you will see today, throughout the day, they are the ones who have been leading in the war of resilience, war of recovery, and war of hope. I thank all those speakers, all those leaders who have done extremely well in their respective organizations, and in a short while from now, during the panel discussions or the workshops, you'll be listening to their stories, their experiences, and I'm sure that is going to give us a lot of inputs, lot of learning for confidently facing the future. This COVID-19 is not going to be the last one. It may come in different forms. We knew when internet arrived, when the digital revolution arrived under the 4th industrial revolution, that something like this might happen, but we never knew that it would happen so soon. However, it has happened and we have taken our lessons and will take forward our learnings from here. Once again, I welcome each one of you. I always believe the more you give, the more you get. So please pay attention to all the speakers. They have so much to share with you. And at the end of the day, all of us will go back far richer than what we came with here. Thank you very much and welcome once again.
Thank you, sir.
To set the context of the conclave, we have Dr. Sanjay Muthal, CEO, Contemporary, Leadership and Business Solutions. He has over 3 decades of corporate HR, consulting, and executive search experience. He serves as an independent director on the board of LIC Mutual Funds AMC. Contemporary is a knowledge partner for the 12th Mega HR Conclave. Sir, I request you to set the context of the conclave.
Thank you and good morning. It's indeed delighted to be here this morning to be part of this mega conclave of human resources, which has now become a marquee calendarized event in the corporate annals of India. There's so much interest around this particular conclave because the structure of the conclave, the context of the conclave every year is about the recent trends, it's about the recent happenings, and is about what is affecting us today. In the same values and same scheme of things that when we sat together this year in terms of designing this particular conclave, the thinking part of this conclave, people who contributed to the thinking, one thing that was no-brainer is to talk about what has pandemic done to the world that existed around us, and specifically the work and the workplaces. What has the impact of the pandemic has been on the businesses and in resultantly on the people themselves. Are people that we envisage ourselves when we went to schools and studied our human resources in terms of designing our culture, in terms of designing our engagement strategies, in terms of pure engagement with people, completely changed as the pandemic struck and people started working from home. And therefore, this very unique theme of physical, which is essentially a hybrid workplace, hybrid norm of new go-to work, is here to stay. And therefore, the conference thought, the design team thought that it's extremely important for us to understand what does physical world will look like. Will it look like the typical physical world that we saw before the pandemic came in? Or are we looking at pure digital world where it is bereft of human touch? Are some of the questions that we are looking forward to demystify during the course of the day today? Believe you me, the pandemic came and accelerated everything that the organizations were planning for at least last decade, in terms of how do you digitize, in terms of how do you create platforms from working from home, etc., etc. Some of the purists like us would never believe that work from home is going to be the norm. And believe you me, the organizations who had this thought process well ahead of the curve, they had the digital technologies to enable people to work from home, continued to do well, and have had their P&L and balance sheets close to the targets that they had set up even in 2021. This year has begun with huge optimism and hope. All of you, I'm sure, follow the Sensex, National Stock Exchange indices, so on and so forth. There's a huge opportunity that one is seeing in India. There is a gung-ho spirit of euphoria in the annals of the businesses. However, one context that has changed, and that is what this conference, this conclave will try to deal with, is the way we were managing people has changed 360 degrees. You had the model of engagement where people came to your workplace at 9 a.m. and left at 5 p.m. That's going to change. That has changed. We are going to see a kind of a hybrid model where few people will come, but most of them will work from home and vice versa. In the context of that, how do you define your workplace? How does the new workplace is defined? Remote working, collaboration is going to be the norm. Are flexible work hours going to stay here? How are you going to give the privacy to an employee who's working from home to ensure that you are not trading into his private time, and still create a culture which engages people to the vision and values of the organization? When they come into physical world, they come back to work, one of the biggest worry is going to be the safety and security of themselves. And because of that, the families. What are the workplace designs those are going to change? What are the workplace behavior those are going to change? Is the distances at workplaces going to impact the engagement of employees among themselves? Are the cafeterias where they were chit-chatting together on the same table, is that going to change? Are some of the things that this conference intends to demystify during the course of the day? Therefore, capability of people, composition of workplace, the capacity, and most importantly, the culture of new physical world is what this conclave attempts to demystify. To do that, as Professor Mahapatra said, we have over close to 200 speakers and some really experts who have done a lot of work in this place, who have now gone and have set the agenda for 4.1 human resources for India and for the world. These are some of the organizations, despite pandemic, have done extremely well. These are some of the thought leaders who have come here, who have decided to be here this morning and through the day to spend time with us in terms of sharing their perspectives as to how did they deal with this situation and conquer those situations. So I think all of us must sit back, relax, and try and as much gain through the day about the new physical world, as it were, that we are embracing now. So I'm very excited to be part of the conclave. I'm sure all of you must be. I once again, on my personal behalf, welcome all the speakers. Also thank them for their time that they invested in us. And I'm also going to exhort the participants, the students, and the working executives and the working professionals who are in the conclave today to engage with the speakers, learn as much as you can, and therefore together we will deal with the physical world as we get back to work. Thank you very much. It has been indeed pleasure to do a bit of a setting context, but more than that, I'm really excited as we go ahead through the day to learn new physical realities of today's world. Thank you. Welcome once again. Good day.
Thank you, sir, for introducing the conclave to the audience. We are fortunate to have with us Professor Dr. Hrishikesh Mohanty, Vice Chancellor, KIIT, Dean to be University. Professor Mohanty holds a PhD from IIT Kharagpur and has a long-standing research experience in distributed computing, software engineering, business process reengineering, and mobile computing. He has vast teaching experience and has published several papers on reputed national and international journals. In addition, he's a literator with 3 Odia poetry books to his credit. Sir, we request you to address the gathering.
Thank you very much. Namaskar. Honorable founder of KIIT and KISS, Professor Achita Samantha, and the Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Smita Samantha, and the Director, Professor Saras Mahapatra, the Dean, Professor Mishra, and Dr. Sanjay Muthal, to the knowledge partner of KIIT University, and Mr. Samir Babu, the management representative, Professor Subudhi, and all my colleagues, and I welcome all these leaders, the thought leaders today, those assembled here online to deliberate on this new world, the physical world. Dr. Sanjay and Professor Mahapatra has already set the context. My job is to welcome all of you on behalf of the Honorable Founder, on behalf of the university community for this deliberation, and also interesting deliberation, what Dr. Sanjay has already told it. I remember there is a say in Odia, it tells that, the frog tells to the lady frog that, khyana khyana kuana. That means the world changes every moment. This has been there since the creation. Sometimes change is slow, sometimes change is, as today we see, it is faster. But today's world, the changes are in many dimensions, starting from corona to carbon. The carbon management today is a massive challenge in front of the humanity. Of course, the corona is just a hit, and it is just like a wave, and somehow our scientists or medical professionals have done the wonder. But the carbon management is very, very tough. This changes what the new world is bringing to in front of us. It is not only a challenge for the HR thinkers, but also the all community of all the disciplines. The whole, there has to be art of change management. How efficiently we manage the changes so that humanity trims. As I understand, there are three factors in this change management. Is first thing is that it is liberal. Second thing is the resilient. Third is that it has to be progressive. Every time, every effort, and every interventions lifts the humanity to the next level, not only materialistically, as a wholesome upliftment. That is the journey of humanity. What Sri Aurobindo tells that, the journey of humanity to the divine life. So this is, is as a whole, if we abstractly see the changes, we see that way. And in all this, managing the changes, the role of knowledge is paramount. The interventions in managing the changes must be accompanied with new knowledge. The knowledge which fits today's world and which will be beneficial for today and also for the tomorrow. Because we deal with the real world, we always see that, what is the technology, what is science, and what is the thought process in social science happens. As such, now today the technology have a range of technology available. The science is now poising to the quantum computing to lead us to the extremely new world which we have never imagined through today's supercomputer. Science from artificial intelligence to active elements. Active elements is a new materials are emerging, which will have almost like, lifelike materials. This technology, once it will be in practice, it will be a creation over creation. Today, what we talk about, the carbon copies, the digital human, tomorrow once active elements comes, you will have a totally artificial world. So in this, the knowledge, what it is, the arriving at the world. So how do we manage with this knowledge? For what we manage, we use this knowledge as tools to intervene for managing the changes. And the first we manage the changes is through the human, the management of human thinking or human goodness. That's what I understand the discipline of management stands. And as it now goes, not only by the thoughts, but also by the reality, I think the technology, science, social science, all together now to be bundled. They took the work together for this managing the changes. So in that context, this conclave is a hallmark of KIIT University to excel. It is a hallmark of its thoughts for to meet the challenges of the new world. And I really salute to the designers of the conclave for including the different disciplines and the HR leaders into it. I am sure this deliberations through the day will give a new thoughts. It will have a churning, and the essence of change management will come out, will emerge, and that will be the success of this conclave. I really admire School of Management for having such a innovative way of looking into the issue. I will also request, there are many other disciplines we have in the KIIT. This is a wonder of KIIT and its founder, Professor Achita Samantha, to have all varieties of flowers in one bouquet. As the video you have seen, from yoga, sports to medical science, everything. I think this conclave spread can be in next years, can include all other disciplines, and to see that how we get engaged with the new world. The KIIT University is immensely thankful to all the panelists for their time, for showing the path to the knowledge community. I am sure some of you must have visited the KIIT University, but I invite all of you, when this pandemic is over, please visit us and see the wonders of KIIT University and also provide your excellence touch to it. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Your approach towards the topic of the conclave, backed us by your vast experience, was quite interesting.
We are fortunate to have with us Mr. K.A. Narayan, President HR, Raymond, as the keynote speaker of the conclave. Mr. Narayan is a very well-known face in the business arena with more than 38 years of experience. Spearheading the culture and leadership transformation journey, Mr. Narayan has been with Raymond for the past 14 years as President HR. Prior to joining Raymond, he was President Corporate Human Resources and Legal for Wokhar Limited. He has been in charge of many global mergers and acquisitions, leadership development, the establishment of greenfield hospitals, and cultural charge projects. Sir, we request you to address the gathering.
Namaskar to everyone and a very good morning to all of you. Firstly, my hearty congratulations to the organizers for organizing a conclave of this magnitude. And I thank Dr. Achyuta Samanta, the founder, as well as my friend Sanjay Muthal for inviting me to be the keynote speaker. When I got this invitation, I was wondering as to why Sanjay thought of me to be the keynote speaker. Firstly, I am not from the world of digital, which is probably the currently hot topic. Many of you who are part of the current curriculum and the course in KIIT are born natives of digital, whereas I was born and brought up in a physical world. So I was wondering as to how and why is my keynote going to be relevant. Having said that, today's world, one everybody knows, is a world which is where we have forgotten our actual names and we are known by our usernames and passwords. And that is what digital has done to us. The question that is currently being debated today, and which is the topic of today's conclave, says rise of phygital. And I was wondering as to whether this rise of phygital, is it something which has happened now because of pandemic, or is it something which has been evolving over the years? I don't think this is a sudden development, while pandemic has surely accelerated the move from physical to phygital. But I think the debate has to be a little more at a higher level, which is not just about workplaces, but how the actual world of digital and physical is going to intersect and coming together to succeed in a world which is full of disruptions. I was very intrigued by what Dr. Hrishikesh Mohanty talked about a little while ago. At a very high level, the kind of challenges that the world is facing today. From my observation, I have been heading HR and I've been in this field for more than 35 years. I think the whole world of business is changing so dramatically, particularly when we are living in this world of disruption. So to just give you a few examples, as you heard, I spent about 19 years in the pharma industry with one company, Wokhar. And I remember about sometime in 96, there was this whole discovery about the genomics and how genomics is going to disrupt the world. And someone in the British Institute developed what is a genetically engineered sheep called Dolly. I don't know how many of you know about it. A sheep was cloned. And this was at that point of time so scary, because then they got on to saying that we can clone monkeys and then we can clone human beings. So that is the level of disruption that we saw in those years. And fortunately, I think the whole world felt that that could be very risky to clone human beings. And that took a little backseat. But the kind of developments that happened on science front because of that cloning and the kind of technologies that came up is something which I have seen with my own eyes during my years of growing up in the pharma industry. Now, then came this whole wave of disruptions which are caused by technology. Now, what I'm trying to cover here is how we live in a VUCA world and also the kind of disruptions that are happening. So over the last about decade or so, all of you must be noticing the kind of disruptions that are happening due to technology. So we saw how robotics is taking over the shop floor manufacturing and how even surgeries can be performed by robotics. We saw this whole IoT, which is a kind of a development where devices are connected. And when devices are connected, multiple devices get connected and everything is controlled through your mobile phone. So, that is the kind of disruption that happened. And then came this whole blockchain and Bitcoins and the artificial intelligence, to the extent that we also saw 3D printing disrupting the whole world. So aircraft parts can be manufactured by 3D printing. So this is how technology has been disrupting this whole world. So in short, while there was disruption happening in science and then disruption happening in technology, and these are some things which has become now a day-to-day kind of an affair for all of us who are going to get into corporates in future. And particularly from an HR point of view, this has very deep implications. So that's why I'm touching upon some of these kind of developments that are happening, which is just beyond looking at how will the workplace going to evolve. I want to also touch upon in 2018, Raymond invited Singularity University. And I don't know how many of you have heard about Singularity University. Singularity University is one of the leading universities in the US, in the Bay Area, which is looking at future and how technology is going to disrupt the future. So we had a very interesting session with the Singularity University, where they talked to us about the future disruptions that can happen in this world because of technology. And there is a professor there called Ray Kurzweil, who has got some 20 PhDs, and he has been sort of predicting how the future is going to evolve in the workspace and also in this world. Now, what he said in back in 2000, I think 15, 16, he said by 2020, most of the diseases will go away as nanobots will become smarter. I want you to think about this. He said by 2020, most diseases will go away as nanobots become smarter. Now, this was a very audacious and bold prediction that he made. I will come and talk about it a little while later. He also said people will be able to talk to computer, and which has partly become true. Now you have seen Siri, Alexa, and we are able to relate through voice to many of the things that are happening today. But his prediction was that you won't need a mouse and that you can talk to a computer. And that's one of the predictions. And I think this is well on course. He said computer displays would be built into eyeglasses for augmented reality. And I think many of us have seen how Google Glass is coming and becoming a reality. and you may not even need a computer screen, and everything will happen in your eyeglass. Then the other thing that he said was by 2030, virtual reality will begin to feel 100% real. And we will be able to upload our mind and consciousness by end of the decade. Now, this has a very big implication to our workplace, because if this becomes real, which is a virtual reality, then you don't need a workplace at all. Everything is through virtual reality and augmented reality. So you can sit at any place and feel like as if you're sitting in office. So this is one of the predictions. And the other prediction he said was by 2040, non-biological intelligence will be 1 billion times more capable than biological intelligence. Now, those who have some understanding of science will know that today it is human beings who are evolving into biotechnology. And I worked very closely in the biotechnology space. But he's saying that by 2040, non-biological intelligence, which means all machine created, will take over human intelligence. And nanotech, bigots, will be able to make food out of thin air. Now, this is the level of disruption that is going to happen. And it can create any object in a physical world at a whim. So this is some of the predictions of the Singularity University they spoke to us about. And also, they spoke to us about driverless cars and drones and all that, which I think all of us are today seeing as happening as in front of our eyes. So Tesla has already introduced a driverless car, and there is enough and more happening on the drone space and delivery space and all that. Now, when all this was the prediction of Singularity University, I was wondering as to why nobody predicted COVID. Yes, there was a prediction by Bill Gates saying that there is going to be a pandemic. But if I was to keep aside the whole controversy around whether COVID is man-made or was it natural, but other than this whole weak prediction, and which was again debated and discussed by Dr. Fossey and others, as to whether this pandemic will disrupt human life, and whether this is going to really impact the workspace, is something which nobody had ever predicted. So what is it that the human mind will miss to see? And when COVID happened, how many of us were really struggling to make sure that we are alive tomorrow? So just imagine the world in which we are living today, where there is so much of chaos, disruption by science, disruption by technology, and also suddenly accelerated by this life-threatening event called COVID, for which we have now come up with a vaccine, which is still not as sure as to whether it is going to save your life. There is a whole lot of research that is still on. But the point here is, how much is this pandemic going to define our work life in future vis-a-vis all the other events that are really playing out there? And that is going to impact on the life of all of us going into the future. And I think people who have growing into, or those who have seen COVID with close eyes, at least in the last century or so, we have never seen something like a pandemic in this world. And this is something which has impacted the whole world, right? It is not just India. So when something like this happens across the world and everybody is scrambling to find solutions, how is that going to impact our work life? Is it going to be physical, digital? I think is a very small aspect of the disruption that is happening. And therefore, I would urge all of you to debate and think as to what are some of the disruptions that could happen, irrespective of whether COVID is there or not. I think COVID is not going away, and COVID is going to become like another flu or viral that will exist. And if you were to relate back with AIDS, many years back, there was a scare that AIDS is going to kill people. And today we have conquered AIDS. So is that going to really define whether we move into physical or we move into digital, and whether work from home will happen or not? Now, I want to therefore get into this whole area as to, is this debate about work from home or work from office, or is it about hybrid or, semi-hybrid? And there are so many terminologies. But I think that is useless to get into that debate and predicting as to what will happen. Work from home has been there always. I think if you have seen the technology industry, all the IT companies, as well as a lot of other industries, had moved to work from home already. And there has been already a thinking around who should work from home, how one could work from home, and therefore does it need to come to office, what are the implications on productivity. So all that, I think, is something which is already there. So this is not a new area which is suddenly happened. When you look at which are the areas which are deeply impacted by COVID, and therefore what can the whole debate has to be which industries can really do this kind of a hybrid or a physical or a digital. Now, I work for a company which has got a huge physical presence. Now, I have about 26 manufacturing locations. I have about 1,700 retail stores in this whole country and deep penetration. Now, what is the impact of pandemic on deciding as to whether I should create a physical workplace or a digital workplace? And is it all about just looking at the workplace, which is the back office or the head office? Or is it about people who are out there in the market? Is it about people who are out there in the manufacturing units? So this is a very difficult task, and we have been debating and breaking our heads. Now, even during pandemic, all our manufacturing units were working full-fledged, even during phase 1 when there was lockdown happening. And many companies did that. So is that a reality that we are going to move into a phygital world or a digital world or a physical world? I think time will only tell. Now, if you look at how COVID has impacted different businesses, for instance, you've seen how when COVID impacted the whole education sector became completely digital. And even today, schools have not opened, colleges have not opened, and everything is happening through digital. Can that same thing happen to health infrastructure? All the hospitals stopped working and they were all made into COVID hospitals. Could the doctors have said, no, I will work from home? Not possible. Now, look at the consumer life cycle. Is the consumer willing to just sit at home and keep buying only on Amazon and Flipkarts? I am not sure. Look at what has happened to banking. Now, there was a time when I think banks decided that they will work with very thin staff. But even prior to pandemic, banks had started looking at digital as a way of life. And therefore, is that really the point, that whether the workplace of a banking sector, is it going to become fully phygital or digital, is a question which needs debate. Now, the most important thing is how comfortable are we as human beings when you get into a world which is completely impersonal. To give you an example, now, I was checking in at the Singapore airport, and one finds that there is nobody who is there right from the stage of your check-in to your boarding. Now, it feels so weird. At least I felt that, I couldn't even cope with this as to how are you going to interact? You're not getting into a check-in counter. You're not completely, getting into anything that is very clear about the whole world. So the point that I want to leave is, therefore, this debate has to be a little more larger in the context of all the disruptions that are happening. And of course, there are challenges of the work from home, where employees are getting disengaged. People are wanting to come back. Microsoft put out a study which said that work from home has impacted productivity, and also security concerns on Zooms. Now, of course, when you get into a digital world, you will have challenges around this roles becoming redundant, and of course, new set of skills and competencies that are required, and also the policies that are required. So just to conclude, while we can keep on debating as to what is going to happen in future, but one hears right now that all the IT companies are the first ones to announce that they are returning back to work. So you would have seen probably Microsoft, TCS, Wipro, HCL, Infosys, all of them said that they are returning back to work. So I think there is a fatigue of virtual, and also I think consumers will be missing the experience of getting into a physical space and walking into a mall. So therefore, all that I want to conclude is the debate will have to be more at a larger level on how digital and science is going to disrupt our work life, and therefore what is the implication of that into the future. So with this, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope that this will set some thinking process for the conclave.
Thank you, sir. It was an enlightening address. We are sure the students and other participants learned a lot from your address.
We are fortunate to have with us Mr. Milan Oza, Executive Chairman, Wollongong Coal Limited, as the keynote speaker of the conclave. Mr. Milan has more than 30 years of experience and has held senior positions in various organizations. He has held leadership positions in many conglomerates like Canadian telecom major Northern Networks, Booz Allen Hamilton, where he worked on projects with IRS and US Navy. Before joining Wollongong Coal as CEO Executive Chairman, he was President, Global Ventures, Jindal Steel and Power Limited. Sir, we request you to address the gathering.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me over here to share my ideas and articulate on my thoughts. It has been interesting to listen to my other fellow speakers. So picking up the threads from the earlier address, I think the time is right to focus on this concept or idea of digitization, or the way you say it, physitization. Over 2 decades ago, in 1999, I was at a hotel in Seoul, South Korea, where a communication expo was in progress. A person came to me and handed a small phone with 1.5 inch screen and asked me to get inside a small wooden box. It was a public place, so I knew that nobody's going to nail it and ship me somewhere. But anyway, I did go in there with some apprehension of what's going on. It was supposed to be a surprise. And it was. The young lady went to the other end of the hall and started talking to me. And it was not a simple phone call. It was a video call. Not as good as it is today. It was about 5 frames to 10 frames per second, going up and down on that. Now compare it to the current technology at about 25 to 30 frames per second. And then think about human eye, which processes at 30 to 60 frames per second. We have come a long way from there to here. And the change has been phenomenal. A lifestyle altering change. And we are still progressing. We are still improving. So let us start with a simple understanding. We progress and succeed in life when we acknowledge that the only constant in life is change. And it is not one-off event, but it's a continuum. So in this constant change, the time and age, as we know, are changing too. And the new age, the age of digital transformation, has come a long way and pretty close to maturity. The question is, have we embraced that change and transformed our lives, our way of living? I think we have. The pandemic simply brought added urgency to that transformation. We see that the workplaces are turning into virtual offices. Office buildings in major cities across the globe are showing higher vacancies. Human resources tools are now digital. Our interaction, even at this venue, is digital. Whereas the doomsday scenario was on mind of a lot of organizations, stakeholders, people, the technology Actually, it has withstood the test of and demand of the time and has successfully addressed our expectations. Economies are thriving, businesses are prospering, world has not come to an end. So stepping back in time, over 2 decades ago, being most of the time in international business arena and traveling all over the world, working with multinationals, always being out in some global location somewhere, but yet constantly communicating with the head office, I realized that a new class of human resource or virtual asset is taking shape. Today, most of my team works from home, but at least that's what they say. But the efficacy of their work has not suffered. In fact, the communication has become much clearer and productive. What is of significance is that the entire organization is in sync. It's in sync with the HR, it's in sync with the other departments. Close to home here, our company had been awaiting for the mining approval from the New South Wales government and the federal government of Australia for over 11 years. And just when the approval was to come, the pandemic made life difficult for everybody. Now, for the full-scale production, we needed 400 miners trained in the underground mining at various skill levels. And difficult as it is in current situation, and with almost $1.5 billion of investment at stake, the entire recruitment process is digitally and remotely managed. We are still under lockdown here in Sydney, so as you can understand what I'm saying. What has been necessary is the precision in a way that we communicate, and the clarity around what we require and scale as well as the skill levels we seek. So this new digital workplace revolution is acting as a proponent of the disruptive technology that enables the revolution. It is new way of thinking and doing things to achieve the desired results. It actually works as a real-time version of a very old advertisement from a telecom company called AT&T, where they are showing an office worker sitting remotely somewhere in the South Pacific on a beautiful beach. And the company says that, did you ever think that would happen? Yes, it will happen. And we are the ones who will take you there, AT&T. That's how they basically advertise their technical expertise. But more importantly to the point, the digitization of workplaces enabled creation of repository of knowledge base that may be stored, accessed, and used across the organization from any location globally in an instant. So when an organization asset moves from one department to another or to another employer, the knowledge base that is created by that employee does not go with it. It stays with the organization and we all can access it. What is more impactful is the idea of measuring performance of HR in digitized world. Whereas the organization is always concerned about the performance of its employees, its human resource, it is equally important to ensure that the human resource department is held to the same standards of delivery. The current situation also provides effective feedback on the efficacy of the person as well as the HR function. And it also provides the global reach to the HR talent hunting all over without any extra effort. It actually opens a vast talent pool for the HR function. A simple example is that when we try to recruit some salespeople for Australia in the different territories, we sent out only one ad. It went across the internet, and we could actually access the global talent pool to look for the people that we want on our board. And that's how we become more efficient. In the digitized world, measuring the efficacy and performance of human resource has in fact become a lot easier than before. This is because everything that is being done leaves an electronic trail of actions and documents. Thus, this digitization is not a gift of current pandemic. But the current pandemic has only become a catalyst for the change that was waiting to happen, leveraging the abilities and enablers brought about by the disruptive technology that human genius has developed and still evolving to its next stage. So it is not surprising that from very onset of current situation, a lot of organizations were ready to face the business challenges head on. Now the skeptics will ask, is this new idea or accommodation workable? Will it continue or last long? Let me put it this way. When Bugsy Sigal picked up the stick in the desert of Nevada and drew some lines in the sand, nobody believed him. In fact, nobody took him seriously. After all, Bugsy Sigal was a criminal mastermind, but he was a criminal with a vision. And today, we see his legacy, the greatest entertainment venue in the world, a gem in the desert of Nevada. We all know what is Las Vegas. And though I'm not Bugsy Sigal, I firmly believe the digital technology and digital age will continue to work with us and in fact, like all other things, it will evolve to greater heights, abilities, and features. How so? So here is another simple story on that, or take it as an explanation. Before the smartphones came about, we did not see the need for it. In fact, dismissed it as another toy for people to spend money on. But once Apple introduced the iPhone, we started to wonder how we lived without it. Call it a genius of Steve Jobs, as he knew that there is a product that can be developed that people may not feel need of. But once we give it to them, they will wonder, how did they live without it? Or call it a technological miracle. But we use it in everyday routine and do not even realize that we are actually using it. It has become a part of our life. That is what we call disruptive technologies. It changes the status quo, give us a new angle or a perspective to look from. It transforms the way we do things and achieve results. The new age of digital reality has come to the center stage. And we all know, knowingly or unknowingly, willingly or unwillingly, we'll live with it and not only be part of it, but in fact, we'll adopt it to a point that it becomes a part of us. So ladies and gentlemen, be ready. Develop ideas to use it. Exploit its potential. Be more competitive. Be more productive. Achieve the desired results. Because sky is the limit. Let us all reach out to that. May God bless you. May God bless Mother India. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening address. We are confident that the attendees learned a great deal from your presentation.
We are pleased to have Professor Dr. Achyuta Samanta, our beloved honorable founder, join us for the Conclave's inaugural address. KIIT, having a student strength of 30,000 from across 65 countries, along with its sister university, Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences, world's first exclusive, fully free tribal university for 60,000 tribal children, were founded by Professor Dr. Achyuta Samanta, Member of Parliament, Lok Sabha, a visionary social architect and philanthropist, and one of the greatest educational leaders of India. Honorable Sir, we request you to deliver the inaugural address.
So, good morning, everybody present here, virtually and also actually. I am very much happy to be connected with all of you on the occasion of this Mega HR Conclave 12th by the KIIT School of Management, KIIT University today. I was thinking not to be connected because of my presence in a distant place from Bhubaneswar, but I am very much happy and honored to be connected with all of you. I am more happy that today that we have got this keynote speaker, respected Mr. K.A. Narayanji, President of the HR Raymond. And also just now I was listening to respected Mr. Milind R. Oja, the Executive Chairman, and also my dear friend Samir Fanda, Vice President of the KIIT University, and also respected Director of the KIIT School of Management, and also Dean, other respected faculty members, and particularly all the other respected speakers and those who are attending this mega HR conclave today. So, like every year, this year also, I am very much happy that KIIT School of Management is organizing this mega HR conclave, and they have been doing these things for the last 12 years, and they have been doing 3 to 4 conclaves every year. So it is a very good exposure to our staff and students, and also the others, those who are connected. It's my great pleasure and also duty as a founder of KIIT and KIIS. I also extend our heartiest welcome to Mr. K. Narayanji and also Mr. Milind R. Oja for their kind presence. On behalf of the staff, students, management of two university, KIIT University, KIIS University, and also on my behalf, I welcome you, sir. I also extend heartiest welcome to all other respected speakers and guests connected. And my special thanks to Director KIIT School of Management for organizing such a mega HR conclave. But I am more happy to see the theme going on, Fiji Digital. So such a very nice theme, keeping an eye in the present situation going on because of this pandemic corona in the last 2 years. So I think it is the physical and also digital coined together or combined together. And our speakers, both keynote and also business speaker, both have them must have spoken very nicely, and they are the right persons to highlight the plus point and minus point of these physical and digital things going on. And you know that you all are the wizard and the expert in the HR, must be knowing human resources is very difficult task. To handle the human resource in any organizations, small or big, or even in the family, is not a small things. No doubt, because of this corona, etc., going on for the last 18 months or the 2 year, approximately, it is, I can say, it is going to be 2 years. So definitely, now everything is going on digital mode. So luckily, because of this technology, minimum the entire world, even our country is running to some extent and delivering so many things, including the HR. And we know that these HR things to maintain the relations and also the feelings and also the emotional things, etc., etc. To some extent, it is being managed through the digital mode. But as far as my small knowledge goes, that as I know that man is a social animal, as man is a social animal, so man always needs the physical presence of the everything, and it gives more good relations, or it create more good relations, good contact, etc., rather than in the digital mode. So digital mode, minimum we can manage the things in the present crisis, etc. Definitely it has given eye opener to all of us that these things also can be managed. But the way HR thinks, the complication things to handle the human resource, to handle the persons in large number, etc. This physical relationship or contact, etc., is very much important along with the digitization or digital relationship. Even I can cite my small experience. Now the everything is going on online. particularly education sector, suppose if you see. So no doubt, in education sector, everything is going on online and students are benefited. But the real education is not being imparted to the students, and quality of the things is deteriorating day by day. But it is being managed through the online education. The same thing is happening whenever we are handling the human resources, because we have seen, you all the honored speakers and the others must be knowing, KIT and KISS, both the organizations of national and international repute, with 60,000 students, 30,000 students, KIIT University from Pan India and from 64 countries, another 30,000 students, poor tribal children from the interior part of the Odisha state and other states, with 10,000 permanent staffs and also the 5,000 temporary staffs. So we are very much happy. We have been handling our human resource in both KIT and KIIS in such a huge number very effectively, because of so many good things we have been doing for our own human resource, for our own staffs and also the students. That's why it is the most disciplined campus till date in the last 25 years in the country. And for this, I am very much happy that our KIIT has got Times Higher Education one great award, the best workplace of the year 2020. That means best workplace of the year 2020 mean this is the best place for the staff and students to work. So from this certificate, global certificate, you can easily understand how much environment and ambience we have been maintaining since inception in both KIT and KISS. Among the staffs, 10,000 staffs, 5,000 temporary staffs, by which our governance, our everything is being valued globally and given the certificate, the best workplace of the year. So I am very much happy that we have been managing our human resource in our own way, in a very good method, very successfully. Because I know for any big organizations, for any small organizations, to handle the human resource is the very difficult task. Because in any one family, it is very difficult to have a good relationship among the 4 or 5 members family. So when we can think of the such a huge organization, etc., in that organizations, besides finance, strategic management, many things, production, many things, the managing human resource is very difficult task, because it involves so many things, and it always depends upon the person who is heading that organizations. If the person who is heading that organizations will be good, will be good to the staffs and the others, then definitely human resource will be managed very nicely. I will not take much time, because as I am not prepared to be connected with all of you virtually, as I am in a distance place. But just as a founder, it has been my pleasure to say you hello, everybody connected virtually and actually. And once again, I hope this day-long webinar on this mega HR conclave will be very successful, because of the so many good speakers connected from across the country. So thanks to Director School of Management, my dear Samir Panda and others, and my special thanks to all the speakers, those who are connected even in virtual mode. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. As always, it was a pleasure to listen to your words of wisdom. We have the pleasure to have with us Professor Dr. Sasmita Samanta, Pro Vice Chancellor, KIIT, deemed to be university in today's conclave. Dr. Samanta has held leadership roles at KIIT in various fields, from human resource management, talent acquisition, general administration, to institutional governance and competency management. She's an academic leader having experience in diverse fields of teaching, research, leadership, consulting, and has authored various books and research papers, both nationally and internationally. Ma'am, we request you to speak a few words. Ma'am, you're on mute. Kindly unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Honorable Founder of KIIT and KISS, Professor Dr. Achyutananda Samant sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mohanty, respected Director of KIIT School of Management, Professor Mahapatra, respected Dean, Professor Mishra, our respected Vice President of KIIT, the Samir Panda sir, and all the esteemed faculty members, students, all the respected invited guest speakers present here. Today we all are discussing in a topic, perhaps the topic is being discussed continuously every day in many forums since last 2 years. And I hope that most of the conferences, the conclaves, discussion forums are focused for this. And while discussing about digitization in different sectors, particularly as I am there in education, we discuss about digitization in education, acceptability of the industry, acceptability of the students, acceptability of the public in general. And second is digitization in industry, in society, maybe in social activities. So everywhere the topic is related to this. And today also we all are discussing about phygital, that how physical and digitization, the integrated system can be managed by the HR personnel, those who are working in different sectors or across the sectors in all the industries. So coming to the topic, I'd like to say that perhaps the human resources, the people, human itself, the requirement of the human being, how the human being acts, what it expects, what it aspires, what is the dreams of the human being, perhaps it's being discussed in more analytical way, very closely than it had been done since last few decades. In last 2 years, from different angles, it is being discussed. Of course, this COVID-19 pandemic, perhaps it has given us a different perspective for the life itself. It's not about the job, it is not about the work we are doing, but it has given different perspective to the life. And I remember that before 2 years, I was going through a few papers of one European researcher, Madam Chanchila, while she has done lots of his research throughout her life by giving much more importance to the life than the livelihood. Every time she was advocating that in almost all her research paper, that first is life, and whatever you are doing in this earth, that should be focused to live a comfortable life. And for leading the comfortable life, whatever is required for you to fulfill your dream, your aspiration, to your physical requirement, whatever, then you should work and earn that for yourself. But the center of your thoughts always should be life. So while I was going through those papers 3 years back, because our orientation till now, I think it was much more very professionalized. While we are discussing about HR, we are discussing about finance, we are being taught that organization is the supreme, which gives us the platform to give lives to many people. Yes, that's true. The organizational concept itself, it's very idealistic, and organizational concept itself, it gives purpose to many lives. But the purpose, now we see in last 2 years, the purpose is being discussed in much bigger way. The purpose-centric leadership, purpose-driven profession, purpose-driven human being. So it's being discussed in many ways. So coming to the purpose, I would like to say that the organizational purpose for doing any activity, for addressing any issues of the society, whatever we are doing, whatever we do through any organization, and we chalk out a process where the people get the opportunities to get connected to it and try to explore the opportunities, how their strengths can be utilized, they can earn their livelihood. At that point of time, I see that, yes, purpose is the supreme, but coming to the human resources, what really the people think that how they can be connected. Now that has become the core of each and every organization, how to connect to the hearts, how to connect to the minds, to the purpose itself. And we are slowly observing and realizing that connecting the purpose to the individual purpose and driving the aspiration, driving the, I can say that, driving the energy of the people, driving the energy and focusing it for a particular objective has become the very great challenge in the workplace. It is physical or digital, perhaps, maybe after 1 year or 2 years, will not be much differentiating about physical or digital. Now, while I speak, I see the faces of the speakers. Maybe only in last 6 months, I have felt that this is the way. In this way only, I can see the speakers in the conferences, in the discussion forums. Maybe after 5 years, we'll be very least bothered that how many people are physically present and how many people are present digitally on the screen itself. But taking everything together, I can say that as the whole world, whole business is becoming purpose-centric and much more human-centric, I can say that much more human-centric related to compassion, empathy, and other things. I think that the relationship will play a major role, whether the people are present remotely, whether people are present physically. Of course, the physical presence was facilitating a lot to build up a very good relationship, not only the personal relationship with the people, but with the organization, with the system, with the purpose itself. But digitization, how much we can devise the processes, the tools to connect to the emotions of the people, to connect to the heart of the people, as such better relationship can be built up with the organization and the people in and around working for the organization or working with the organization are connected in different ways. That's a great challenge for the HR people. I think this physical conference, whatever we are organizing today, we have brought many speakers, those who are experts in HR in different areas, and they are having this typical issue today itself, because many people are in and around. Of course, when COVID was not there, many MNCs, they work remotely in different places, it has started, this movement has started since 2012, I think. It has come in a very big way since 2012 in almost all the knowledge industries, and it's going bigger, it is becoming bigger and bigger slowly. And I hope that all the policymakers, the thought leaders will come out with some solution for all of us. But whatever solution is available with us, we all are trying to do our best. So all the best for these conferences. And I think that the students, those who are preparing themselves to join in the workplace in different industries, they'll be getting clues from this. Thank you all, and all the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
I invite Professor Dr. S.N. Mishra, Dean, KIIT School of Management, to propose the vote of thanks. Sir, you are on mute, sir.
On behalf of our director, Professor Saroj Mahapatra, all the faculty members and organizers, I take this opportunity to thank, in the beginning, Mr. Sanjay Muthal, CEO Contempo, for setting the context. He mentioned that one of the biggest challenge for the HR executives and all the entities would be how to ensure safety, security, and how to design the workplace and behavior of the people in a different way. Professor Hrishikesh Mahanti, our respected Vice Chancellor, quoted Aurobindo, who mentioned that the journey of humanity is towards divine life. And he said how the hallmark of KIIT University has been to excel in all areas to meet the challenge of the new world, while retaining the human aspect. We had two very outstanding keynote speakers, Mr. K. Narayanan, President HR Raymond, mentioned about his experience of major changes that has embraced the world, started by mentioning the major disruptions in genomics in 1996 and later in robotics. He mentioned that what is really important is how we look at the virtual reality and identify the disruptions. He also was very pertinent in mentioning that human relations in a digital world would be the biggest challenge. Mr. Milind Oza, Executive Chairman, Wollongong Coal Limited, was far more sanguine about the digital world. He mentioned how pandemic has brought in added urgency and how the knowledge of the organization stays in the organization. He said that communication has become much clearer in the digital world and efficacy hasn't suffered. Professor Achyuta Samanta, our very revered founder of KIIT at KSOM University and the Member of Parliament, mentioned that handling human resources is the most difficult challenge, because he mentioned that man is essentially a social animal. And he mentioned how KIIT University, with his 36,000 students and 30,000 students in the tribal university and about 10,000 staff members, are a standing testimony to the wonderful cordial relationship that we have built, and for which the university has been awarded the best workplace for the year 2020 globally. And it also shows how governance and the HR cordiality has been recognized globally. How we manage our resources. He mentioned that what is most important in an organization is leadership and how it drives the resources, the human resources that underlie it. Professor Sasmita Samanta, our Pro Vice Chancellor, mentioned that while organizational purpose is important and salient, how we maintain our relationship would be a very major role in the digital world that we are encountering. So what people think, how people connect to individuals, how do we bring energy to the people are going to be the biggest challenges. So how essentially we are trying to foster better relationship would be the challenge ahead of us, more than just the purpose of the organization. I thank all of you, Professor Subita Mishra, who is the convener of the function, and Professor Surya Mishra and all the associates who are present here for their wonderful contribution to this conference. And I wish this wonderful mega conference all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
With this, we come to an end of the inaugural part of the conclave. We'll be starting the panel discussions immediately. Thank you.
I, Ashutosh Patnaik,
And I, Riddhi Goswami,
welcome you to the international panel, which has the same theme as the conclave.
Today, we have amongst us an esteemed panel comprising of industry leaders from across the globe. Our first panelist is Ms. Taiwo Dayo Abatan, Group Head, Human Capital and Corporate Services at Primera Africa Finance Group, Nigeria, where she leads the team in strategic planning, organizational leadership, change management, process automation, and provides thought partnership in driving human capital agenda of the group. She's an alumnus of the London Academy Business School and has attended the University of Ado-Ekiti, where she studied economics.
Our second panelist is Mr. Eugene Lam, who is currently the Senior VP HR at ST Engineering, where he leads Group Talent and OD, as well as Commercial Business HR Leader. Prior to joining ST Engineering, Eugene was a Senior HR Director, APAC, for Danaher's Dental Platform. After graduating with a degree in Business Administration from National University Singapore and an MBA degree in International Marketing from Surrey University, UK, Mr. Eugene has over 20 years of HR experience and has led HR teams across geographies.
Our next panelist is Ms. Surani Amira Singh. Currently the head of human resources, Lion Brewery, Ms. Surani is a hotelier by profession, having obtained her hotel school diploma from Hotel Consult Caesar Ritz in Switzerland and MBA from the American City College. Before joining Lion, Ms. Surani was group head of HR, Halers PLC, and prior to that, senior HR business partner for British American Tobacco, overlooking HR and talent for the legal and corporate regulatory affairs functions globally.
Our next panelist is Mr. Khalid Al-Hamdani, CHRO, Bank Dhofar, Oman. With 19 years of experience and acquired specialized expertise in various fields such as HRM, SHRM, management of change, project management, coaching and felicitation, and crisis management. He has international experience in HRM by attending various activities in public and private organizations in the UK, US, Malaysia, and Singapore. He has also worked for the Royal Oman Police to set up and develop new work in the ROP since 1992.
Our fifth panelist, Mr. Michael Miliopoulos, HR Director, Anti-Sale Greece, is an innovative human resource management leader who intends to use more than 18 years of experience, which includes building new departments from scratch, better integrating staff in class activities into internal operations, and redesigning underperforming components to redefine HR leadership. He provides smart solutions to employee problems and significantly improves overall efficiency by using key features and systems.
Now, I invite Professor Dr. S.K. Mahapatra, Director, KIIT School of Management, who is also the moderator for the international panel discussion, to take over and start the panel discussion.
Honorable
Sorry, sir,
Director, sir, you're on mute. You're so sorry.
Very good morning to all of you. And if it is the time of the day to say good afternoon to some. And thank you very much for being here today and joining this panel. We are running a little late, but we will make up for the time. There is one unfortunate technical glitch for which one of the fellow panelists, Mr. Khalid, is not able to join. So we'll have to make do with four esteemed panelists. And in no particular order, I thought that we will get started. Today in this panel, we have Eugene from Singapore. We have TDA, whom you can see, Tayo from Nigeria, and Mike from Greece, and Surani from Sri Lanka. So these four international panelists have been able to join. If Khalid comes in between, we will take him in. Just to set the context for this, all of us are aware that human beings were not so organized outside the family until the first industrial revolution, and through the second industrial revolution, third and fourth, that been starting from steam to electricity to electronics to the internet and computers. Through these four industrial revolutions, one core issue has affected human beings, that the factories have got bigger and bigger, the workplaces have become more and more complex, and that has resulted into a phenomenon which was discovered in the 18th century called alienation. Alienation is basically emotional distancing of people from work, emotional distancing of people from even themselves, their family, the society, everywhere. And if you look at the literature of human resource, continuously the evolution of literature of human resources around this particular word. About 50 years ago, people were measuring the satisfaction of human beings at workplace. And then suddenly 25 years ago, you saw people started measuring employee engagement at workplace. And today we do not know in this digital workspace what's going to happen, that what will be the kind of challenges that human resources are going to face. We have extremely 4 distinguished speakers in this panel. I do not want to, take away the cream from the milk, right? So I would like you all to first experience what they have to say, and later on I'll see if I can add something to it. In no particular order, may I invite Eugen to first say for about 5 minutes, how is your new normal?
Okay, sure. Thanks a lot, Prof. Maybe good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm in Singapore, as you heard, so it's about 1:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday. So that's why I'm smiling at the weekend has started for me. Well, Prof, maybe let me share just very quickly what I thought were important contexts that's happened in the last, I guess, 18 months or more, right, for all of us. I think clearly with what's happened with the pandemic, right? We all have there are new terms that we all learn now, right? I don't know how it's like in India or in Greece but in Singapore, some of these terms like quarantine, work from home, social distancing, all these new terms that we never heard before, right? And just in this short forum, you heard things like you're on mute, right? Those things don't happen in the past. So, I think we have seen new changes that's sort of taken place. The second context I would say is related to corporate responses and how companies and organizations have reacted to this. I don't know what's everyone's experience, but it's been a very tough year for me personally and professionally. In the organizations that I've been in, and even talking to my peers, companies are downsizing, in many ways. In the platform that I supported in Danaher just before joining ST Engineering, within the Asia Pacific business, I had to reduce about 35% of my workforce. So very painful, right? And I've seen companies go through reorganizations, the whole rethinking about how we're going to go to market, right? If demand has fallen, and unfortunately, those who are in aerospace, in hospitality, in the travel industry, has been very tough. So from a corporate response standpoint, companies are clearly looking at these actions, and then more tactically, you see furloughs, right? We have to take time off. Unfortunately, in some cases, like for me, certain levels of the organization, we have to take salary cuts. I must say very quickly that all that sort of come back already, but it was a very tough year, right? We had to take very hard actions, and the priority for most businesses was protecting cash flow, right? That was the priority. And of course, as this thing unveiled towards 2021, you started hearing, conversations around working remotely, working by hybrid. I think some organizations that are a bit more sophisticated and progress a lot quicker, right, have already started this whole action. And for me, I've seen, at least in my company, right, we've done, I guess, surveys about how people are feeling working from home. And so corporations are taking those kind of actions, right, just to get a sense from the ground, how are people feeling, right? If we say come back to work, are you ready for it? What do you feel? And it's been very mixed, just so you know. Those of you who work internationally will understand, and I appreciate in certain countries, working from home is frankly not very convenient, right? In the more mature, developed countries, people are, celebrating that, the whole idea of working from home, but not the case everywhere, right? And you and I know sometimes it's pretty tough, and some of us who have young children is even tougher, right? So, you get all these responses, right? And companies were looking frantically at also what governments in their countries are saying, right? Because you can't come out with policies.
Thank you, Eugene. We'll come to the government perspective later.
Sure.
Thank you for bringing a beautiful perspective. that there are two types of responses, corporate responses and how people have responded to it. And you have given a very good example of corporate responses, which appeared like knee-jerk reactions. And somewhere people were on the part of the suffering side of that. So the dilemma was whether corporate first, business first, or people first. So thank you for bringing this perspective. We'll come back to you again.
Okay,
so
sure.
Let me ask the same question, TTA. How was the new normal for you?
The new normal has become our reality. Good morning, everyone. I'm here from Nigeria. It's 6:43 a.m. And this is our new normal. It's our new normal. Yes, we used to think when we were younger, we used to hear the word teleported, that I could just find myself in India. And here I am. Via technology, we're connecting. And so that's our new world. That's our new reality. Conversations have happened here in Nigeria around how do we source for talent now. The attrition rate is higher. The skill set requirements have changed. Also, people went through what we call a reality shock. For a while, people were expecting that we'll go back post-pandemic to our lives pre-pandemic, but we're getting to a point of acceptance now. Now in the corporate world, it's more around how do we streamline our strategy. So before you could have a 5-year strategy, but now companies are beginning to streamline their strategy to say maybe 1 year, maybe 6 months, because the rate of disruption is just so high. Now also companies have embraced digitization, because for me, I believe that's the way to go. How do we bring our products and services to the consumer, considering what's happening around insecurity, safety, even the pandemic, how safe are we? The conversation is also going on around no work, no job. Should people come back to work? Should they not come back to work? And for those that are working remotely, I think the biggest challenge for us as human resources is how do we enhance employee engagement? Because that connectedness to a large extent has been lost. So you have employees, some working remotely, some working hybrid, some even saying, I'm not coming back to work. Now, like just to buttress what Eugene said, we have also companies have had to go through downsizing just to safeguard the bottom line. It's more around the company's existence, branding. For HR, we have had to evolve in terms of communication. So communication has gone to be more around moral suasion, encouragement, communicating sustainability of the business, and laying the fears of employees. Will I say we are there? No. We're still on that journey. But are people beginning to embrace the new world? Oh, yes, because that's our new reality. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you, TTA, for bringing such interesting perspective. You supported the views of Eugene that it is a rate of destruction is very high, a lot of challenges for people. I can clearly see that, again, the emphasis on how first to run the business focus has been first and then the people. But yes, the concern for people have been there and the emotional stress that has been emphasized very much. We'll come back to this point again. Let me get to Mike. Mike, are you there? What is normal like you in Greece? Yeah, Mike.
So very good morning from Greece, Kalimera. I would like to thank you all for having me here today, and we should all understand that the pandemic had disrupted all the global economies and as well here in Greece. And we as HR professionals, we have been in the heart of it. So also my organization was struggling to grasp on the recovery, and our role as HRs, it's turned more like doctors, that every morning we have to ask our employees about their temperature, if they're feeling well. So the occupational health and safety totally changed for all of us. But most importantly, as TTA says before, it has to do with employee engagement. So the social implication of such transportation on employee engagement and the way that we communicate with each other, it was really badly affected. I'm not sure how it is in India, but in Greece, there is a big culture of having a coffee in the morning and getting together and There was some points of meeting with the board and having the opportunity with a coffee corner to exchange ideas and having this social impact. But unfortunately, today it's very, very difficult with this digital way of working. And lastly, working remotely was affect the organizational culture apart from the culture of people and how the day-to-day operations they're running. So if I will sum up, I will talk about the engagement of the employees, the way that we communicate, and this cultural impact apart from the health and safety.
Thank you, Mike, for bringing this cultural aspect. It's very tough to have coffee from your own home and have the same kind of spirit which you used to have at the workplace. And India is not very, very different. We are tea takers. And we used to also, the first thing in the morning is when we assemble in the office, we normally have a common tea time. So we are also missing that same thing. But the issue is that you brought a very interesting point of view that HR's role has become like doctors, right? First thing is to measure the temperature and all that. Yes, while HR has been actually struggling a bit, but this is a very interesting role you have described. We'll come to that a little later. And now I come to Surani. If you're there, how is your new normal, Surani, in Sri Lanka?
Thank you, everyone. First and foremost, it's a great opportunity for me to be here. The rest of the panelists have actually stolen my thunder. So a lot of the things that we've actually faced is already being covered by them. But so therefore, I would like to take a slightly different look at the experiences we've had. I mean, we are all aware that COVID-19 has actually impacted all industries. And for me, working in an FMCG manufacturing company, we had to actually look at culture and the better use of technology during this trying times. Overnight, the work landscape evolved rapidly, and we have had to keep up with emerging technologies. And overnight, we've also had to learn how to better use artificial intelligence, data analytics, and even look at ways of automation to ensure we are using these capabilities to help the business and, of course, our employees. I actually strongly believe both the business and the HR leaders have had to also reimagine and reevaluate the strategies that they need to do to prepare the workforce with future-proof skills. And especially currently with the rapidly changing work landscape, the last 12 months, we've had to look at how best we provide that development and the opportunities for our workforce to learn new skills. That also means us in HR also needs to constantly learn and reinvest in themselves and reskill in themselves. Overnight, like I said, I mean, from being a traditional HR person, I've actually had to also learn better use of technology. So I've had to learn to be a lot more digital, a lot more agile, and a lot more data literate. I also found that, do I have the answer to this? No. I found that I've had to look at ways of building strong teams, hire right individuals, and even in some cases resolve or mediate disputes, and all virtually, because we've actually ensured that there has been a distance between the manufacturing and the rest. For me, what has also come in handy is for us in HR to be a lot more analytical. I mean, analytics is the basics, but more so than ever before, we've had to be a lot more analytical. And analytical skills, I'm not just talking about gathering data, but the ability to actually adapt that data, understand what's happening, and then provide solutions to the situations that we are faced with.
Thank you, Srini. I think you brought home a point that the learning curve probably for the HR has been the steepest during this period, and that's quite visible in the response of all four of you to this. We are missing Khalid, but I think this distinguished panel will be able to do justice to that. I come back to this point that because all the first responses have been from the business perspective that yes, business dictates us to do certain things and we have to follow that. So HR has been a follower of business. Is there anything your organization has done which you can say HR has led here in this pandemic during this period? I will go in the reverse order. I'll first go to Srini. Is there anything which you can claim that yes, we have led this process?
Okay, so actually the first and foremost thing that we realized or we had to lead was that our day jobs or our deliverables didn't change, whether it was a pandemic, whether there was lockdown situation, HR's requirement was still the same. The overall impact to our people was vital. And that meant having to do everything from performance management, training and development, and like I said before, building culture. So where we've been able to take the lead was actually relook at performance management as a whole. How do you evaluate people in a context where there's constant shutdowns? The KPIs have gone haywire because one day they're able to deliver, the next day they can't, simply because they don't have the resources or the environment to do so. So we've actually taken the lead in actually re-evaluating our people policies and people policies that actually impact overall culture and the well-being. So yes, the health and safety thing did happen, but how do we constantly performance manage? How do we constantly develop? And of course, the engagement. And as you said, Professor, nothing beats that tea corner and discussions to build engagement.
Thank you.
Overnight, we lost that, right? So we use of tools to start doing engagement. So whether it is through WhatsApp groups, whether it is through Zooms. So that is something that we led. But more than anything, even though it is work from home and lockdown, I insisted that there was one HR person manning the factory at least once a day. For our workforce to see an HR presence, maybe they are not allowed to see us face to face, but the fact that they know there is an human resources person in the building with them is a huge reassurance, especially because a lot of these people were scared to come to work.
Thank you.
And we ran 24/7.
I'll stop you for the sake of time now, because we have still one more round to go. Thank you very much for bringing that perspective that you have led in PMS, you have led in employee engagement. I'll come back to Mike. Mike, you have already said about the communication part, what you have done beyond communication. Is there something in which HR has led in your organization, Mike?
Thank you, Ratan. So everybody will be facing the same experience with using all these social media platforms to communicate, but on the same time, in order to share on demand the information, we have adopted some avatars of our leaders that we can send video messages to employees. But we realized very soon that at the beginning, avatars was very interesting, but after 2 or 3 times, nobody was interested to see a puppy on the screen. So the most interesting thing is that we have to make a combination of that. Having the avatars, but on the same time, having people that sharing stories and experiences with the employees. And something that the machines, they don't provide, it's the imagination. So while you're sharing stories and see expressions of humans, suddenly you take the reaction also from the employees that they're having this impact with their imagination, and suddenly you can bring people together.
I want to ask you a question.
Please do.
In India, one of the companies I saw that initially when the pandemic started, the chief executive started sending out messages to employees that you are all secure, nobody's job will be displaced, you will continue to get your salary and everything. After 6 months, the chief executive went on hiding. Because they did just the reverse. Did you experience something like that?
Exactly. The redundancies that there was
common.
massive. There were massive. Probably Greece. It's a very small country, but if we calculate in percentages, we can easily understand that many families they've been affected from this pandemic, and many people they were unemployed. Of course, there was opportunities that they can work. To other countries, since that this distance working was another opportunity, but the transaction was not easy and nobody was prepared for that. Thank you for that question.
If you have to keep your hand in your heart, on your heart, and say that, okay, whatever decisions we took, because we were the HR heads, we had to take decisions for the business. But then the heart was also beating for the employees, whatever decisions, top decisions. Am I right in guessing that?
Exactly. This is how much the situation was being run, not only in Greece, but also in the region of Europe. This is the reality, what you have described.
I'm sure all of us would have felt the same way, that many people think that HR gets things implemented at the boss's command or at the requirements of business, but HR is the person who stands in between, and you take the maximum emotional stress on yourself. TDA, I'll come back to you with the same question. Is there something in which you have led your organization instead of just following what was told to you? TDA, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Yeah.
And yes, I think Surani and Mike have laid credence to what HR has done. But I would say from my own end, what I really did was to enhance communication. Yeah, the disruptions came, leadership was not prepared. So while they were attending to the business, I had to own that space of communicating to the people. We just needed to get their buy-in. And yes, we had to enhance communication. So we had to morph in terms of our communication, infographics, town hall meetings holding regularly, check-up meetings with the employees, just to show that connectedness, because it was a time whereby everybody felt alone, everybody felt empty, and somebody just had to bridge that gap. So it was I worked more on communication, and it helped.
Fantastic.
It helped.
You got a fantastic point that instead of waiting for what to do, what is the next instruction coming to me, you decided to take on communication, assuming that it's very important for people to stay emotionally connected. Thank you very much for bringing that point. I'll come to Yuzin. We started with you, and is there things in which you can say that yes, I have led here?
You're mute.
You're mute, Yuzin. Yuzin, you have to unmute.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll speak on behalf of the HR community and what we led. So there are a couple of things. One is we quickly formed a pandemic response team. And sorry, Prof, I have to raise this point about the government. I know you may come to it, but because of the changes that were going so quickly, right? We had COVID-19, then we had the Delta variant. And if you guys have been reading the news, Singapore's numbers have now gone up again to about 800 to 1,000 a day. So as this was changing, I mean, look, we had to form a team, right? And keep communicating with people. Okay, guys, this is the latest from health authorities. So it was literally a war room, right? That we had to keep the employees posted. Okay, with this, nobody comes to the office. With this, and it was changing very rapidly. So that was one. Secondly, we also realized through last year, there was a great impact on our employees, on their wellness. And I'll be proud to say, we launched a employee assistance program. I think EAP is very common in many organizations, but we sort of relaunched it big time. And guess what? In there would have, counseling. It would have, so we basically gave it back to the employees to say, hey, look, you guys need any help? Family related. And the stress is not just from work, right? Because it impacts the family too and so on. So we launched EAP as a program just to attend to this thing known as wellness, right? Which is mental wellness, physical wellness, and so on. I think the last piece, and if I would just extend to what Taiwa is just what she mentioned about communication. You realize that during this time, our leaders had to front a lot of these conversations. And they are like us. this is very new to all of us, right? And everybody went into a crisis mode. So imagine if a leader had to communicate, guys, we have to downsize, we have to repivot. They needed a lot of help, right? They needed help in terms of what do we communicate? How do we communicate? And as HR, I found my role to be significant because in a time like this in crisis, right, you kind of learn a few things, right? Stay calm, you know, leaders need to stay calm, provide the direction, set the course, but most importantly, tell the truth, right? And it was tough because how do you sort of be very open, right? That, hey, the business is fledgling, right? And we have to take some really tough action. So, and we have something learning for me because it was not exactly a very easy thing, but those were the few things I'll just call out that that HR, I think, took a very front kind of position in this.
Excellent. I think the kind of tips that you gave, and actually nobody can substitute the leader. And as HR heads, I think we also have a role in polishing our leaders, traits. That's also, many of us do not see it. We just see that, okay, we allow the leader to be there as he is, and we continue to, just take instructions and carry it forward. But I think there is a role of HR also in this, particularly in this kind of situations, to take the lead and, in fact, lead the leader. In fact, many organizations have done that. And thank you for bringing this beautiful point. And now we'll go for with your consent, we'll go for an audience round. Now, are there any questions from the audience? You can ask any speaker, no particular order. You have to just unmute yourself and ask question. We'll take 2-3 quick questions. Actually, this is also a challenge, in the in the online medium. Are there any questions from audience? Okay, since we are running short of time, no issues. What we will do is we'll go to the last round. I'll request each of the speakers, and again, I'll start with this time a little different in a random order, to say your last line, your last words. TDA, I'll start with you. What's your advice to the students?
I will just say thank you very much. I would say brace up, change has come, and change is the way to go. Companies are beginning to digitize. Be prepared for a new world of HR. It takes someone with courage, someone with a focus in mind. And please note, HR, the company needs us most at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Titi. That's a very nice advice to our students. What about Mike? What's your advice to my students?
So I have 2 key words. One is adaptability, and the other one is resilience. So these 2 points, it was our surviving boat through these 18 months that we've been working remotely. And this is the one thing that we have to take out when we're living after this session.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. I think that those advice will go a long way in their career. Surina, what about you? What's your advice to my students?
Okay, so for me, I just want to let everyone know our basic HR deliverables don't change. The only difference is that our teams will change, but the new workforce requirements will change. And therefore, it's vital as HR people to always keep abreast of what's happening and how best we can support. I also do agree with TDA that, at the end of the day, challenge, it is a tough job. It's always not a very popular job, but, be strong to take up a challenge when it is the right thing to do.
Thank you, Surin. I go to Eugene, our last panelist for the day. Eugene, what's your advice to my students?
Thanks, Prof. Look, I think you can hear from all my esteemed colleagues, even Prof himself. I would say, look, stay agile. if I looked at my job description 20 years ago as a young HR guy coming out in the market, and now, it's changed. And you can hear from everyone, change is a constant, and it's very passé, but it's very true. And I've learned that you have to lead yourself first. Mike was using the word resilience, right? And I found that personal leadership was so important, right? And one of it was, how do you stay agile? Because the world is being shaped by a couple of things, right? Two big things: one, demographics; secondly, technology, which leads to digital, and that's going to be around. And we're going to anticipate this AI human partnership more and more. So stay agile, because your job description will change with time very quickly. Okay, that's it, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you. I think students, if you are listening, stay agile, be ready for change. Change is the only constant. Keep adapting, and remember resilience. Okay, show your resilience. Okay, never feel that when you face a wall, you have to find a way around it. We had a wonderful, I think, panel. I have rarely seen this kind of enthusiasm, in spite of getting the session little delayed. I am missing, really, we are all missing Khalid. Khalid, I think you will see the record and they will like it. And so your inputs I will pass on to the students. Thank you very much for being here, and we really learned a lot from you. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
We thank each panelist and respected director, sir, for conducting this insightful and engaging panel discussion.
As part of the conclave, we had organized pre-conclave competitions, which were a huge success. There were more than 3,200 registrations from reputed educational institutions spanning across the country. The winners of HR quiz are Ms. Sonali Das from GITA Bhubaneswar. Our first runner-up are Mr. Anshuman Mohapatra from IIIT Bangalore. Our second runner-up is Mr. Ronak Bharwadish from XLRI Delhi. The winners of Business Simulation are Mr. Swapnil Sharma, Mr. Anurag Dher, Mr. Abir Wadnikar from Indian Institute of Forest Management. Our first runner-up are Ms. Anshumani Aditi and Mr. Mohit Kumar Jain from XIMB Bhubaneswar. Our second runner-ups are Mr. Vibhor Tanwar, Ms. Shruti Chabra, and Ms. Swati Rathore from Institute of Management, Nirma University. Congratulations to all the winners.
Before we move forward, let's sit back and enjoy the conclave video, The Voice of Students, made by the school's media club in association with the HR club.
Being a critical strategic resource for a company, human resource management is failing to leverage maximum value out of their existing methods and technology.
Design evolved from the time and gradually shifted from conventional approach to automated typical functions.
Solution is digital HR, a combination of physical and digital HR, where companies embark on digital transformation and evaluate individual best-in-class solutions to achieve better ROI by connecting different systems in their ecosystem.
Enhance my knowledge and skill for digital HR and get inspired to explore, promote, and illustrate actual practice.
It will be a great way to get hands-on experience as it gives us the opportunity to try out new methods and be situation ready.
Take full advantage of this workshop by asking questions. Asking questions is that opportunity that will quench all your thirst and make you an asset in the world of this new digital world.
I feel this is a new and modern concept that has a lot of value in it.
For students who are pursuing their MBA, like knowing how to combat like situations that arise and to go over them and to analyze them and find the best possible solution is something that MBA students really need in their arsenal.
I want to thank KIIT School of Management, IFM Bhopal, and my teammates, Swapnil and Anurag, for being the best teammates anyone could ever ask for.
Hope you all liked it. Today's conclave will have 9 breakout panels at each of the participating schools of KIIT. We request the students to join their respective panel meeting links on time. Thank you.
This is to announce that there will be no valedictory session as informed earlier. So after the breakout panels, workshops will happen and the conclave will be announced closed at the end of those workshops. Thanks a lot. We will end the meeting here. Thank you everyone for joining. Please join your respective breakout panels. KSOM students to join the KSOM panel, please.
Alcatel-Lucent.
Our next panelist is Mr. Subrata Chatterjee. Mr. Subrata is Head of HR of ArcelorMittal Design and Engineering Center Private Limited. Mr. Subrata has more than 25 years of diverse HR and IR experience across sectors like metal and mining, chemicals, paper, consumer electrics, engineering consulting, both in Indian and global companies. He served reputed MNCs and corporate houses like Indian Aluminium Company Limited, Philips India, ITC, and Orica Mining Services Australia. Being a senior professional, in addition to his current role, Mr. Subrata is also supporting other ArcelorMittal entities, both in India and overseas, time to time, on different business HR assignments.
Our next panelist is Mr. Samar Banerjee. Mr. Samar Banerjee is a head human resource professional with 2 decades of multi-industry, multi-domain HR experience, ranging from automobiles, beverages, chemicals and bulk chemicals, cement and media. During his stint with a cement MNC, he was identified as a top talent in HR, nominated as the first participant of HR function of the organization in the first ever Asia-Pacific Region Development Assessment Center conducted by PDI at Singapore. He also attended the flagship leadership program at IIM Ahmedabad as top talent.
Our next panelist is Mr. Ashish Banka. Mr. Ashish is a passionate HR leader with over 13 years of experience in HR domains, specializing in talent acquisition, performance management, and employee engagement. Mr. Ashish is currently working as an HR director for deliveries first and second mile sector. He is also a founder and currently the national president for HR Sampark, a non-profit trust, having focused on various HR events and CSR actions.
Our next panelist is Dr. Devabrata Das. Dr. Devabrata Das is currently working as Group Vice President of MSPL. He has an experience in a diversified business conglomerate and brings with him 26 years of professional experience in human resource management. He has played an instrumental role in spearheading transformational HR initiatives and introducing business-centric HR policy formulations across various organizations. He is the recipient of Golden Peak of HR Excellence Award, HR Leadership for Change Management by World HRD Congress and Mentor for the Youth Award.
We have with us Ms. Priyanka Anand as the moderator of this panel. Ms. Priyanka Anand is a Vice President and Head HR South Asia, Ocean and India at Ericsson since January 2018. In her current role, she is leading an HR team of 60 resources spread over more than 10 countries and driving the HR strategies across the geography. Before this, she has led 600-member global team as head HR Global Operations, catering to HR delivery in Ericsson globally. She has worked in the past with Gold Technologies, Manpower, and STG. Ma'am, I welcome you to take over the session.
Thank you so much. That was a very heartening introduction to all of us. So a big thank you for inviting us. And again, this is going to be one of the most thought-provoking, most exciting, and most intense panel discussion that we will have. Looking at the pre-meetings that we had before the session, it clearly gives us an insight on how revamping work, workforce, and workplaces is the topic that is most relevant to all business leaders and HR leaders today. And as students, when you're starting to broach this topic, it's extremely relevant for you guys to experience how each one of us in our organizations and also in the industry are spending a huge amount of time and effort towards discussing these topics. Again, what's happened over the last 18 months was unprecedented, but at the same time, if we embrace the growth mindset, it's very evident that every challenge can also be perceived as an opportunity. And that's precisely the approach we have chosen to take as an organization and as an industry. And to me, it's the leaders and people who've come together to find this challenging situation. But now as we see some kind of semblance of normalcy coming towards our way, we are starting to prepare quite intensely towards revamping the work of how we do and the workforce and workplaces. Essentially, if I talk about Ericsson, which is what I'm representing today, there's a huge amount of efforts going into defining how do we create an inclusive environment, a workplace, which is not going to be a destination, but it's a work that becomes the end objective. Workplace is one of the many ways in which we start to create an environment where people are effective. How do we invest in our people and create huge amount of competence upswings so that the workforce is always ready for the future demands? And the industry where I come from, which is telecom, we've seen the spread of 2G to 5G happening in just a span of a decade, right? So it's evident to us that technology is disruptive and workforce needs to be constantly invested in, and we've got to revamp our ways of investing in workforce, right? So the future of the learning will be all about anytime, anywhere learning, but at the same time, it's extremely important that we do everything possible towards creating a huge amount of ecosystem that focuses on our employees' safety and well-being. And that's what we are working towards. So with that, I guess we will start, and like you've heard the introduction, we've got an esteemed panel of speakers with us today. And I'll make a start with filling up some of the questions, but please remember, this is your session. It has to make the most value to you. So at any given point in time, feel absolutely empowered and encouraged to ask any question that you may have. Ensure that you raise your hand, put in the chat box, or when we're done with the panel discussions, we will open up for Q&A, so you can bring it up even then. And again, the second thing that's more important is that when people are answering the questions that I'm going to ask, which has been a semblance of what we understand are your questions or your thoughts that you want answers to, bring up any further questions as well in the chat box that you believe will try and give you more insights about what the future holds in terms of work, workplace, and workforce. So with that, I'm going to invite you, Veer, to be able to respond to the first question for all of us, and then some of us will chime in and add our perspectives too. But primarily looking at your experiences, Veer, how do you envisage the workplace of the future?
Yeah, so thank you, Priyanka, for asking and taking up this question. And I would like to thank KIIT and KSOM also for inviting me for this panel discussion. I would see, there are three perspectives that, as you have talked about, the workplace, and workforce. So the students, those who have joined today and looking for some input from the industry practitioner. So how I see is that these are the three different parts and they work together. So I'll try to give little bit brief about all these three parts, that how it is going to be in future. So first is the work. And when we say work, so work is now, it is going to be a human machine interface based, working, you can say the job description that we used to see today. We talk about the, the hard skills and soft skills. So which will include the human machine interface also because we are using robotics, we are using cognitive and AI technology. And we have to also see that today's what the work is being done by human is in future is going to be done by the machines. So what other works that as a human, like the analytics and other thing that we all know, that is going to be in demand, and then the HMI interface that I have talked about. Coming to the workplace is going to be a combination of collaborative process where people will come for the collaboration. It is not going to be like today or you can say that before COVID we used to see the workplaces is. So digital reality and the teaming and how the workplace and work practices will change, that you will be asked to work from anywhere. The challenge is that how you can leverage the engagement between the people. Nowadays we have seen that the the engagement level is going down in virtual space. So those are the challenge, and the new term that has coined is the phygital, means that the physical and the digital environment we have to live in. And coming to the most important aspects of this discussion is workforce, because all the students, those who going to become a future workforce. So the future workforce is going to be it is not like the today that we see that full-time employment would not be there. It is going to be you can say the mix of employment where the full-time as well as the part-time and the gig workers, independent contractors, outsourcing and crowdsourcing is going to be the future. So and that can be called as a workforce aggregator model. Or today we all see the example, are working in a same model where there is no full time and all the people are working in a partnership model. So that is going to be a future. And what we need to think and what we need to the difference between the education and the way that we see these skill sets, tomorrow it is going to be different. How it is going to be different? For example, today if I have to prepare for any full-time job, so I'll keep focus on some of the key skills area and then I'll get the job, and then I try to develop the same skill set over the time and be relevant into the system. But tomorrow it is not going to be the same. Every day new things is coming up, and because you are a gig worker, so you will be only in demand when you will satisfy or suffice the needs of the skills that is going to be there in future. So how you are going to to be in an agile mindset that every day you have to learn something new to be relevant into the system. So these are the major thing that I foresee in terms of future of work. When it comes to the HR, because we all are HR from the HR fraternity. So today we talk about the employee life cycles we see in attracting, developing and retaining the talent. But tomorrow when this gig work model will come, we have to look into the access, curate and engage model, because how fast you can access to the market so that people will come to you, how you can curate them to give the output, and how to keep engage them so that they should not move from your platform to other platforms. So these are the major things that I'd like to talk for now.
Thanks, Veer. Very insightful. Like you said, right? Collaboration, employee engagement are going to be key themes. How do we create that environment for our people? And I thought you brought in a very important perspective of how do we create talent aggregators, right? And make them as our partners and leverage different kind of workforces, which is what the future will really offer as an opportunity for us to create that real tectonic shift that is needed in the way the workforce is going to be perceived, right? But I'm at the same time going to invite some of you who want to add your perspective before we move to the next question, please. Anybody else wants to add their own views?
Yeah, I will add one.
Sure.
So the bottom line is that last 4 months or the COVID phase 1 and phase 2, that has given a tremendous learning opportunity for HR leaders. The first and foremost thing, whatever you are going to do, is the safety and wellness of the employees. That is number one. Number two is what my earlier speaker has rightly said, the judicious mix of the individual tax and the collaborative tax. I think that is a bigger aspect when we are talking about the work. Third about is the meaningful engagement at the workplace. When we are talking about a workplace, here the norms are also very important. State-wise norms, country-wise norms, these are different. So I think we need to sensitize our people about the norms. And the bigger question is that, like in a manufacturing concern, there is some people, they are supposed to go to the workplace. How can we actually maintain that business continuity? Some people will be sitting at home, they will be remote workers, but some people has to go to the shop floor. So how can we actually build that deeper connection across different cross sections of their employees? That is a bigger task for the HR leaders. And last but not the least, the business has learned a lot, and the business leaders are starting asking powerful questions, because we saw a lot of innovations happening during this time. In what way we can develop our talent for the future to address the talent needs of the organization and really add value to the business. So these are the couple of things we find if we analyze the changes that is happening in the workplace and workforce.
Extremely valuable input, Debabrata, and again, spot on, right? Things that we have to start to think about in terms of engagement. How do we create parity when some need to come to work non-negotiable? and some can actually work from home for much longer. How do we create that level of inclusivity, engagement? Lots of questions that are playing on the mind, and I'm hoping some of the panelists will be able to respond to how we are ideating towards it. But thank you so much. I'm going to give another fraction of a second to this question before we move on. Anybody else wants to chime in?
I think so. What Devrata was talking about primarily on wellness and health of employees. So that's a key today because that's where it is the engagement level of individuals going to be going up, and their commitment towards their own health and the organization is one of the most important thing for the future.
Agreed. Thanks, Nikhil. And again, I think health and well-being is the new asset that we need to start to nourish a lot more and cherish a lot more. And employees will make it a bit of a non-negotiable for us as employers, right? Unless you offer those mindset changes to people, they will always be thinking differently. And to me at Ericsson, it's extremely evident that the future of workplace for us has to give people that flexibility, like you said. What gives me my mental well-being, my physical well-being, my financial well-being? And also in a lot of ways, it helps me perform at my best, right? And that to me is what a workplace has to deliver. Don't force me to come or don't force me to work remotely, but how do we as an organization or as people function, start to deliver a great employee experience and customer experience by a lot of these initiatives is what the workplace of the future has to deal with. But thank you so much, Veer, Nikhil and Debabrata. This was great responses. I'm going to quickly make a move to the next question. And Divyanshika, I'm going to pull you in on this one to get some of your insights. And it'll be interesting to know how are you as an organization reorienting yourselves towards the new model of work? What are your thoughts and what have been your learnings?
Priyanka would be very happy to share the key insights which we follow at Indigo Paints. And as rightly said by Mr. Veer or also by Dr. Debabrata, it is an amalgamation of how do you make your employees feel comfortable in a scenario and what is the way you follow for your reorientation. So there are 2-3 things which we have identified after a rigorous exercise of, around 1.5 years, which we are trying to still figure out that what are the ways works for the organization. And when I say organization, it is not common across grades or across divisions because every division works in a different way. And as they rightly said, that in the manufacturing sector or in a plant setup, it is non-negotiable that they have to work in a plant scenario. They cannot work virtually. So we have identified more or less 3 ways. The first being the traditional way as it was, like they were working in plants in their shift workers. And when I say this, it is majorly the department of plant workers wherein the manufacturing is mainly catered to. But we have still identified or tried the way to make them more comfortable with shifts or also with the occupancy. We have reduced the occupancy, we have increased the shifts, and also now we have started few activities in terms of their well-being. Because earlier it was only their work, plant and production, but now it is even the engagement and well-being which is being taken care at the plant level also. The second and the most talked about structure of working, which would be the hybrid way of working. So that we have tried adopting across various divisions because now employees want to actually have a say in where they want to work and how many days they want to work with which location. Because even with a lot of studies, even in a study with Wakefield, they say that around 61%, which is a majority, want to work around 1 to 4 days from their workplace. Otherwise, they want to work from their home or probably other location. So now again, we have segregated and divided it into activity-based working. So when I say activity-based working, it is basically divided in terms of the kind of activity or work they do. So in the office, we have created open offices wherein people can come. There's no designated desk as such, but they can come and wherever they feel comfortable, they can take their meetings, they can take their calls, so they can have whatever designated work they have. We have privacy zones in terms of their specific calls or meeting which they want to take. There are quiet and focus zones in case if they want to do any kind of brainstorming activities or anything like that, which has been concerned. There are specific meeting zones which were earlier also there, but now we are catering it with more safety and hygiene. And then there are cafes also where then people can chill, because now For workplace also, people are starting and comparing their workplaces as in they are going and relaxing outside. So they want to be very comfortable with it. And that's the reason we have given them the complete freedom of where they want to work, because we don't want to bind them in a room because their productivity will be lost. So maintaining the productivity, we are finding out these ways at the corporate office and regional office levels. And when it comes to branch offices, wherein there are limited set of people and they are more concerned towards the sales field, because our company is more driven towards sales. So now how do they actually come to office every day, and is it even required? So again, we have adopted a way like hub and spoke, wherein the managers decide a nearby place, nearby cafe, or whatever they feel comfortable, a small place, wherein they come, they collaborate, they discuss whenever it is being required. The company never forces them to come to office or probably to that place every day. Whenever it is being genuinely required, they come, they discuss, they disperse, and then they accordingly work according to the departments. And as everybody rightly discussed, the health and safety, which is non-negotiable for employees these days, because now we have seen Maslow's hierarchy. Earlier, it was that what is the quality of our cafe in the office, has now come down to that is this cafe hygiene and health or even safety is being prepared in this cafe. So that is now more important, that we try to prioritize more, that health, safety, hygiene. So we see that because now these are employees and we need to take care of their long-term health and not just the specific timing health just because of COVID. So there comes the well-being part also. We try to cater to their well-being in case if they are coming to office also, they should have some time for their personal well-being. In case if they're working from home also, we give them specific time, we give them specific sessions. Initially, we started with sessions so that they can be a little more focused and understood that these are the important things which they need to cultivate or cater in their lives. We give them enough space to maintain distance, as I've already told. Time to time training and education is being given on these kind of well-beings or probably their health and safety things, not just the product training or a specific their skills training is not being given. So these are the also kind of training which we try to give. And then the last thing which we had done earlier also, that is collaboration between the remote and on-site. So now when we are not forcing employees to either work from office or either work from home, probably or wherever they want to work from, it becomes very important that we have the desired technology to cater to this requirement. Because in case if we lack in this technology, there would be a gap between these two set of employees, which we did not wanted to. And even before COVID, we were following this method of having our monthly organization-wide meetings over virtual platforms. So this has again helped us because now people are not resistant to change because they earlier knew that these would be the kind of meetings. And even now, this is a very cultural division driven with us that the management or the MD or the CEO believes in the idea of foot on ground. So he has started from sales and now he understands the value of sales. So even till the date, wherever the travel restrictions has been reduced, he makes sure or the sales head or CEO makes sure that they are not asking the complete regional team to come down to corporate office for their meetings or reviews. They personally go and actually have these reviews to their specific sites. First thing is that it actually saves on
Vanshika, I think this has been quite engaging. Sorry, were you continuing? Go ahead.
No. So almost I was about, about to conclude the same. So this was one of the other things, which is a cultural thing which we follow. Yeah.
And a lot of good practices, Devanshika, from what you're sharing, it's a little bit like you've been living the journey for a while, right? Prioritizing employee safety.
We are trying to change.
Yeah. And I think that's where I think we get more confidence about the future. Devanshika, like the way you define it, it's really all about being more hybrid, being more flexible. But at the end, as an employer or as an organization, we should create a culture, environment where people can bring their whole self to the work, right?
Yes.
And if my needs are A and not B, then nobody's forcing B on me. If it's A, then it's an option. If it's a B, then also it's an option. So to me, that's what people and employees will value, their personal growth as well as professional growth based on the flexibility they need depending on moments that matter, right? At the end, we have to drive ourselves forward as one organization, not as a fragmented organization. I know we are a bit lagging on time now. So if anybody wants to chime in, I'll probably take one more speaker and then we'll move to the next question then.
I want to add what she has said. During this period, we also established a one-to-one contact by establishing a helpline number. This is very important. When any of our colleagues or team members or their family members are suffering from COVID, how to give them emotional support. So HR has created that helpline. Second, when through virtual town halls, we started addressing cross-section of the people, we get brilliant ideas from them. Previously, our performance cycle, you are used to, we start the final review in April, and used to complete the entire activity in June and July. But this year, during the COVID phase 2, we complete the entire activity within 1 month. So this has actually given an insight how to actually optimize your efforts and add value to the system. So taking learning from this, now we are spearheading the initiative that is called Group Digital Transformation, and all the HR process and systems are revamped to give a better employee experience. So that's what is our key learning, and we are implementing right now. What is more important?
You say that, Debabrata. I think this is definitely a very invaluable perspective, right? And to me, it's about digital investment is one big stream, and the other stream is how do we prepare our leaders to become the real influencers, to navigate through this journey called change. So we have done a huge investment as Ericsson towards our leadership, making them the coaches, ensuring that they understand the meaning of empathy, understand the meaning of well-being, that they need to take care of their employees while work needs to get done. So I agree with you. There are a lot of moving parts that we have to start to stitch together to create a seamless experience for our people. Thank you, Divyanshika and Debabrata. In interest of time, I'm going to move to the next one, and I'll try to be a bit more curt on my time management. So Nikhil, now the challenge is on you. But again, based on your experiences, we are very, very keen to hear, what do you believe? Because you've been living this journey inside out in many, many dimensions, Nikhil. So what do you believe are the biggest opportunities that you see going forward? Because that's what I think becomes the most predictive part of the conversation. So over to you.
All right, so I'll thanks for that, and I will try to put across those specific pointers here. So I'll start with how the hiring has been looked at, and I'm talking about when it comes to hiring, hiring from an individual candidate perspective, not an HR perspective. He looks at things like whether this organization, what are the quality of things which organization is going to give it to me. What is this going to be a work from home, is going to be a 5 days working, etc. So it is a lot of transition from an employer driven recruitment to an employee driven recruitment. Secondly, pandemic impact has also helped people from different locations to get collaboration. Now today, the students are sitting in Orissa, we are sitting at different parts of the country. Otherwise, it would have been not so easy for all of us to be traveling across and sharing that space and time. And that's possible today because of the pandemic. And that's why I say thank you to pandemic also, because today you will be able to listen to people across globe. But it's a thought process change, which is happening from a hardcore face-to-face conversations to more digital work. Third, I will talk about virtual recruiting. How many times initially levels of our ages, or maybe even after 1.5 years back, 2 years back, we were not comfortable hiring 100% on our virtual ground. Not, but today we are. So there's so many people we meet on the first day when they arrive to office. We don't know that guy because everything has been seamless and everything has been virtual. So that's a transition which is happening. Fit and transparency is the fourth point. Now, from both the perspective, from an employee and employer perspective, we look at, is he the right fit for the organization in terms of culture, in terms of way of working, and also in terms of his productivity. And an employee look at whether the company is transparent to me in terms of what I am expecting, and are they giving exactly the same thing. Because with the digital world, everything is transparent today. Unlike earlier, the appointment letter was sitting at the corporate office and someone at a regional office just giving an offer letter. So those kind of discrepancies has completely gone. Fourth, I will say, is navigation the skill gaps, where people are looking at, these are my current competencies, and they have been communicated very well, because thanks to the online tools which is available for them to identify their competencies, there are few paid, there are few free ones available. People are looking at increasing and working on those specific competencies which they find are important for them to go into the specific skill sets. And there's a lot of movement which is moving on the digital transformation as a competency of individuals, including people like us who was has been using digital, but Are they we are very digital savvy? May not be. Unlike the students we are talking to, who will not let you to leave their mobile handsets, and we are more from a desktop laptop type. Sixth, I will talk about a lot of tools and resources are available today for individuals to ensure that their productivity is at optimum. While even sitting at home, work from home productivity is always being a question mark earlier. But today with the tools and resources, definitely easy to identify. And last and very, very important factor is a lot of thought processes right now being done for diversity and inclusion. Was it not there earlier? Yes, it was there, but now it has become more prominent. And now organizations and individuals are more cautious about having people at the right diversity and inclusion, because they understand that if they have the right mix of people, the growth is going to be much faster and the organization called more mature. Those are the pointers which I would like to talk about.
Very insightful, Nikhil, and I think I really like the way you started, right? Where it's not no longer a candidate, employer-driven hiring experience. It's a candidate-driven hiring experience. Such a mindset shift that we need to embrace as organization, as leaders, because at a lot of instances, we believe we are driving the market. That's not true. The whole great resignation syndrome that we're reading about talks hugely about how it's a candidate-driven market. Unless we are flexible, adaptive, transparent, the words that you really use uniquely, digitally advanced, there's no way a candidate will bite the bullet to be part of our organization. So great, thank you so much. And anybody wants to chime in? I'm going to take one more and then we'll move forward. Any other opportunities you guys see that you want to bring on the table? Wow, Nikhil, you were pretty comprehensive. Nobody wants to add anything more to it. So great, thank you so much. I'm going to move to you, Subrata. And of course, you get to the table a wealth of experience from unique industries and esteemed organizations you worked with. So it'll be great to hear from you, right? Based on your experiences and looking at the global role where you're sitting today, how do you build an employee value proposition in this new scenario? Something all of us are grappling with, but it'll be great to see how you put your thoughts together and how has your organization progressed towards creating this EVP, which is much sought after right now as a topic.
Yep, Priyanka, thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you KIIT and the guys. Actually, it's a fantastic opportunity to interact with you. Hardly we are getting time, so virtual medium is a beautiful scope for be it a thought-provoking discussion or maybe something which we can discuss and cross-learning over the time. If I talk about EVP, employee value proposition or employer value proposition, we need to understand what exactly employee is looking for. So be it COVID or non-COVID, situation was changing, situation is changing, and situation is going to change in the coming 10 and 15 years. I think it will continue to change. I think in this perspective, I just thought to share a little bit of the theoretical side of it, because I don't believe in theories, to be very honest with you. Nikolai Kondratiev, a Russian economist, he suggested, or it was basically his research, that every economic cycle will be having 40 to 50 years. And during this 40 to 50 years, there will be a lot of challenges. There will be ups, downs, and there will be a massive crisis. And like that, we are passing to the sixth Kondratiev, when we are expecting a lot of growth in nanotechnology, lot of growth in the biotechnology. It was forecasted by him that this is going to change. And incidentally, it's happening. When the Spanish flu happened, incidentally, that was his forecast as well. And it's matching with in 2020 in sixth Kondratiev. But the people expectation, the employee expectation remains the same. What exactly the employee is looking for from the organization? Trust. During this difficult time, we are not able to see each other, whether we're trusting each other or not. Second is that whenever I get into any office, be it plant, I have a very strong manufacturing experience. At the same time, I worked in the corporate setup. I would say whenever I get into a step into any office, there is a feel factor. It's a welcome situation, or it's a very cold kind of situation I'm getting into it. It's a very, very basic thing I would love to discuss with you. Third is the distributed authority. In this current difficult time, which we have done it at the different levels, we have groomed very solid young engineers to the who can take up high responsibilities. At the certain level, when in the virtual medium, we're not able to see them, but we have to empower them. That amount of trust and the confidence the management should have, which we have been experiencing, and the result is pretty good. And another biggest point is that since we are operating at the virtual platform, I think it's the biggest responsibility HR and the leaderships, which I about to tell, but yes, due to the time constraint, leaders' outlook has to change substantially. I am telling you, I am representing an industry which is very, very traditional. In the past also, I worked in the aluminum industry, the steel, and the primarily the manufacturing is traditional in nature. What I would say that work from home में काम नहीं होता है. In 2020 March or April, there was a lot of problem when the CEO started. कैसे काम होगा? Because we are on work from home. So how to influence the leadership that it happens, and within 1.5 years, we have proved that yes, we can do it efficiently, and without any hiccups, the jobs are being done quite nicely. Yes, and the biggest problem is that when you are virtually operating from home, there is a chance of politics and disintegration happens in the organization, because we are not talking to each other physically, we are not in office, we are not able to challenge our negotiation. In the sense, I'm not saying that the salary negotiation, when I'm negotiating with you, that gets reduced because I'm sitting back home and talking to you. So all these problems started happening. But one last important point regarding the employee value proposition, I would personally believe is the role. What the guy is doing, let us ask him what exactly he is doing. During the interview, let me tell you what we do. Since I work for an engineering company, so we ask the guy that you are an engineer, you have certain amount of experience. What is your experience area? If the guy say that I'm a blast furnace expert, so I say that it's my moral responsibility. If the blast furnace job goes down, what will be your usable situation, be it in ArcelorMittal or outside? It's my moral responsibility to see that whether you are gainfully employed, be it here or outside. So we offer them two opportunities. One is your core skill, and coupled with another 2 skills, the P1 and P2. The score is basically I'm the blast furnace guy, and the P1 and P2. So that's what I would love to tell all my guys, primarily all the students in KIIT University or the Kalinga School of Management, that let us build up one more skill, or maybe 2 skills. If your job goes down in the MBA, as an MBA, if your HR job supposed to tomorrow at Tech, what you will be doing? Are you ready for supply chain? Are you ready for marketing? Are you ready? The way engineers are taking multiple roles, let me tell you, the way we are getting equipped or not. So I would end with that. So I'll not drag it anymore. Many things to discuss over there. Many things I will get into, but trying to keep it short and skip at this point of time.
Thanks, Subrata. Much appreciated.
Another point, I'll just take a minute.
Sure.
What happens primarily in the HR fraternity, I have seen, because I'm part of, I've been interacting with many CHROs like you and the very experienced professionals like you. Even they are also in the same opinion that copy paste. If Ericsson is doing something, I have to do it. If Dalmia is doing something, I have to do it. No. Every organization is different nature, like our 5 fingers. So I have to do the dissection like a doctor, what exactly we have been doing, what exactly the industry wants and what my business wants. And like that, sometimes we get carried away. Primarily the HR professionals, there is a chance of primarily the young HR professionals, they get carried away. वो कर रहा है बोल के हमको भी करना पड़ेगा. Suppose AI, artificial intelligence, if my business doesn't demand that, my business doesn't fit into that AI. If I can manage with AI, definitely let's go with AI. So there has to be business case for every activity what HR is doing. Gone are those days about all the theories. That's all.
Thanks, Subrata. Thank you so much. Again, very informative, and I think a lot of key takeaways for the students who've heard it, because at the end, the employee value proposition is going to be for each one of you when you hit the corporate, right? But again, I think good takeaways from how do we create the trust factor, the feel factor, how do we create more data democratization for people to have access to what they need. And you spoke about how job roles and competence plans have to be for just not the current need, but also for the future need. And at Ericsson, we're creating one more tangent employee value proposition, which is really about speak up. How do we create an environment where employees can speak up about what they want, what they're aspiring for, what they don't believe we are doing right? Because at the end, if we have to deliver curated employee experiences, it will only happen by co-creating solutions. And like you said, there is no one size fit all. We always have to embrace the reality, which is starkly different for every single individual, and build the appetite as an organization to be able to deal with those created needs. But I guess a lot of good inputs there. And I think the silver lining is not going to be just a need of the hour, but more definitive way of us preparing for the future, which is leadership outlook, like you said, Subrata, something we are hugely focusing on, because at the end, all these big plans only become reality by leaders making it happen, because at the end, they are the last mile aggregators and value deliverers to our people, to our employees, right? So with that, thank you so much, Subrata. Is there anybody else who wants to chime in, and then we move to the next question then?
I have a pointer, and which I'm going to add with Subrata's pointer. Subrata has been talking about very, very large organizations where setups is helpful. The moment you move it across to SMEs and MSMEs, which are the little smaller ones, there's a lot of challenges there, especially they are not able to take up employee well-being, changes in the systems, AIs, etc. So that's where they have to be working on very small cost-saving initiatives, which is probably small steps, baby steps they can take to ensure that they are able to still move towards creating an employee value proposition for themselves at their level. Otherwise, they will lack.
That's what Nikhil, that's what actually, I mean, you joined a little late when we've been formally discussing with Priyanka, Devabrato, Veer was not there. So primarily Devabrato was there and Priyanka, of course, there as a lead. I'm part of a very large organization. ArcelorMittal is extremely large setup, as you know. But the fact is that I joined, or I built an organization with an expat, which is a very small organization, to today we have been working globally. So I know the pain, because we are extremely entrepreneur-driven organization. This company has grown through acquisition, because such a large conglomerate has not grown through greenfield. It is only through acquisition with a versatile cross-cultural, issues are there within the company. But when I'm talking about my organization, for which I am responsible for, even the mindless possible, that's what I have been telling, that if the AI is not required, it's not required. It's not my cup of tea. I have to look at my business. Even if say for example, if my corporate is working on AI, let them do it. Whether my unit in Brazil, my unit in Singapore, or my unit in Ukraine or Kazakhstan, whether they need it or not, that's very important.
True.
Exactly, I have been telling.
Agrees to you.
Correct.
Many times we try to do copy paste, as you know. So that's a very typical habit of wo kar raha hai bol ke humko bhi karna padega. So that somewhere I'm not in that league, to be very honest.
And I think good points that both of you bringing in. Large organizations, different challenges, different priorities. Small organizations, different challenges, different priorities. But I think, Subrata, what you said, and Nikhil, what you're alluding to is, it's always going to be each to its own. We shouldn't be in a race to do things because an X organization is doing it. At the same time, we should be brave enough to recognize what are the business challenges and employee expectations that we need to fulfill. And hence, what do we need to do to get that resolved? And I think that's what the future really expects from us as leaders, right? But huge thanks to both of you for bringing in real deep insights into this topic, EVP, which is definitely a thought-provoking conversations happening in many pockets. So thank you so much. And with that, Ashish, I'm going to move to you. Again, lots of insight that you bring through your experiences, but something that we're very, very keen to understand, based on how you're preparing for this transition, what have been the best practices that you have invested in that are at least giving a semblance of a positive outcome, or at least showing to you that these will be the business wins or employee wins with these best practices. So let's talk about some of those with your lenses, Ashish. Over to you.
Namaste, everybody. Good to connect. And thank you so much, Priyanka, for taking this forward. And thank you, KIIT. And a very good afternoon to all the Youngistan. I'm I'm a part of a millennial as well. So coming and thank you so much. It's so elite to be a part of, knowing so many people whom I have known from quite some time now to be part of them. I will take this, my thoughts in two ways. One is already a lot have been mentioned. One is how do the job seekers look at what we are giving as an organization and what organization is giving to the job seekers to get it. As part of essential industry, for us, nothing has changed. Even we are approaching big billion days and everything, keeps same. We do not have a work from home option. I will move on to the students aspect. Youngistan, you would have seen all of esteemed leaders have mentioned a lot of options available, all of to us, as what you can choose, what workplace do you want. So now the entire ball goes into your court. I will say three things which are very important. You must have studied and you are studying in your curriculum, and that is very important. One is, what do you want? You all have different time zones, different financial backgrounds. Some of you have taken loans and come up here. You want to get a good campus, get a good life, good moolah and move forward. Some of you want to become entrepreneurs. So what is your desire is very important at the first space to want, and then you choose the organizations what you want to do as a person. Second is KSA. We all have studied, since our MBAs, knowledge, skill, and attitude. And this still remains the basic fact. It is very important, Youngistan. End of the day, what you want to become, because I have always heard, and all of them, before we become good employees or employers, we should become good human beings. Are our ethics intact? And if you see in this pandemic, empathy and have been taken, a center stage towards all of us as people, leaders also, because anybody who comes to us earlier, we just used to shag off, okay, call us back later. Nowadays, anybody giving us a call back, that man, transition is there in our mindset. We want to go back and talk to him with empathy. See, is everything okay? Because we have seen a lot of lives going ahead. And third important thing is relationship building. LinkedIn, Facebook, all says connections. How many of us go and build up that relationship? The journey from connection to a relationship building is a huge journey. And when you do that, specifically, then you transform the workplace as an individual. You come back, when you, most of the people in this pandemic, I always find it very, to take an example, absconding. Many of you, we don't want to go back to the organization and inform. When we leave our homes, don't we tell our parents, our spouses, our children, we are coming back. In Bengali, I am a half Bengali, we always come back. Ami aschi, main aa raha hu. But, at workplace, we don't do that. Where are our ethics gone? So you are the future leaders, torch bearers, who will keep this ethics embedded into the organization, and which is very important end of the day. It's important that what legacy, what we want to give it forward to the people. Workplace is nothing what we decide. Company is nothing, it's our thoughts. It's very important that end of the day, when we go back and, look back after 30, 40 years, what contribution do we have given? As people leaders, I will definitely, I have always looked upon to Dr. Subrato and Samar, you have been interacting over social media. I always come back and say, what impact are we making as people function? So many of you are into operations, HR, these are just pillars to support a company, and we make a company as a whole. So workplace, you choose, your life, you choose, your career, you choose, your bank account, you choose. The entire power owns to you. We are just enablers end of the day. So while you take this post-pandemic, pandemic without pandemic does not matter. End of the day, your skill, your attitude, upskilling, as what Dr. Subrato said, is all matters end of the day. We work, I part of a logistics industry. We don't look at organizations in terms of education barricades. We welcome everybody, graduate, undergraduate, postgraduate, IITians, SAMs. End of the day, what we as an individual, some people say we are growing as a company. Many companies, you must have seen these all esteemed leaders are part of such enriched company. End of the day, there are two things which an individual wants, again, to back to you. One, what you get End of the day, even if you work 25 years, not a single chair will be named after you. You know, you will do your whatever FNF you get, you will not be even getting a single chair named to us. And second, as an individual, when we study Maslow's hierarchy in terms of self-actualization, do we want to go and look back, okay, I have contributed this, am I worth this? Why do we change jobs end of the day? We change because we did not get a self-actualization of, you know, fulfillment. So that's very simple. Do it for yourself, don't do it for anybody. Organizations have matured, they will grow, they will see a plateau, they will decline. Ultimately, whatever, you know, whatever the breathing space we have, whatever aspirations or, you know, we do, which stays with us. Be good to your family, be a good human being, and value add to your life in the society. That's it from my end.
Thanks, Ashish. What an elevated inspirational pitch for the Youngistan. I'm just thinking, am I part of the Youngistan or not? I'm still confused in my mind. But again, jokes apart, it was great to give them the right direction. And again, I think to all of you in audience, remember the buck stops at you. And you've got to start to think about how you want to dream, paint, and plan for your future. Once you do that, of course, everything else around you is an enabler to make it happen. So like I said, speak up, but at the same time, be empathetic and also be courageous in what you want your future to look like. If you're courageous, you're empathetic, nothing can stop you from growing, evolving, and being successful in your careers. But I'm still going to invite other speakers. Ashish, thank you so much for your invaluable perspectives. But anyone who wants to talk about the best practices you are coining within your organizations that helps us prepare for the future that we're already stepping into now.
I think innovation. So somewhere, whenever we look for young people, even at the senior level also, we look for what are the innovative actions they have taken over the years, how they have resolved critical problems. So which is very, very, going to be important in the coming 10, 15 years. So the world is going to change. So that's what actually all the experts are saying. So it said that 800 million people, as per the McKinsey report, 800 million people will be losing their job unless we reskill them. So that is the major challenge. I think these Youngistan, which very correctly asked, I know him for a long time. Very correctly said by Ashish that yes, what exactly you look for, you define it very categorically, because the world is going to change very fast. So that's what comes back to number one, number two, number three. So we have to derive that.
One thing that I would like to add to it, what Ashish has mentioned, and Ashish has brought up a very important point that, go with your, passion, go with your, the inquisitiveness to know about what is happening around you. Sometimes, during our student days also, we used to go with the trend. And later on, we have seen that and we realized that many of them have not opted a right profession for them. So what you can do, you can use the SWOT analysis, which is very important and old proven method, where you think about what is your strength, what is your weakness, what is the opportunity available to with respect to your strength, and then threat is, what is the threat in taking this profession is. So go by your own instinct, not by the trend that is happening around. I see many of the successful professionals, they have used this format and they are successful. Thank you.
Thanks, Veer. Again, I think this is a good perspective coming in. And like you guys said, some of these best practices to us at Ericsson are three-pronged approach. It's really about leaders and what can we do to equip them towards being ethical, empathetic, human in their approach. Extremely important that we start looking at making our people future ready and doing everything possible towards upskilling, reskilling, unscaling, and scaling again. So a lot of things around on competence spread. And the third thing I would say is extremely important. How do we start to create semblances of this whole digital acceleration? What can we do towards leveraging technology in a way that this new normal is easily circumventable, right? Or easily can be made some sense out of. So a lot of things that we are working towards. But most important is this whole cultural transformation and best practices around culture. If we are a purpose-driven organization, it becomes very easy for people to relate to it. So a lot of our people practices are being now surrounded by the purpose and values that we want employees to always reckon with when they're thinking about what they do and how they do what they do. So it's a combination of both. So with that, a huge thank you to you, Ashish, Veer, and Subrata for your insights. I'm going to move to another esteemed speaker in the panel today, which is Samar. And Samar, I hope you can hear us. And again, one of the biggest challenges that we have as an HR fraternity is really about not just looking at the organizational transformation, not looking at the industry transformation, but also looking at our own HR functions transformation, right? So to us, one of the biggest challenges and also one of the biggest opportunities is how do we as an HR function transform ourselves to be future ready? And Samar, it'll be great to hear some insights about how you're trying to be able to be future proof with your best practices around these.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. For the sake of conserving some bandwidth, I'm not able to actually switch on my video, and which I think is one of the modern day hassles of being going digital. I begin with thanking KITians and the organizers of MHRC. ମୁଁ ଆସିଛି ଆପଣ ପାଖରୁ ଶିଖିବା ପାଇଁ କହିବା ପାଇଁ ନୁହଁ. I belong to that part of the country, so it was such a pleasant invitation when I got to be included. And really listening to the esteemed panelists, it was deep insights as to how the world has really transformed. So I'll begin my part of the conversation by sharing few thoughts to the youngsters or the youngistan. I think many of you would have seen the movie Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin. I do not know if you have not seen. I think that makes real sense at this point in time. So that movie depicts the impact of mechanization in an individual's life. So there was a machine which was introduced to have a continual feeding and to ensure that even during a lunch break, people are working. So Charlie Chaplin, the tramp, he was so frustrated, he lands in the suit and ends up at the basement of the factory, which I think my colleague from the steel industry will understand much more. So he lands up in the basement of the factory and he is taken to jail, where he realizes that where he's being fed well, he's being given good clothing, and he's got all the time to himself. So this is one event which was an outcome of the Great Depression and the mechanization that was taking place. The second point I would like to bring on board, which many of my youngsters, young colleagues who are just about to begin their career might give it a thought. I know there was a point in time when Mercedes-Benz engines were produced. It carried the name of the assembler. So apart from the batch and the engine and the chassis number, it also carried the name of the assembler who has finally assembled and delivered the machine for fitting into the body of the car. And finally, a very recent phenomena which many of you must have also read, that Japanese people are spending their weekends on footpaths, and then the government is forced to erect shelters for them on the footpaths. They are so much overworked, they are so much stressed that they spend half of their money in the pubs. They really do not have a nice place to stay, and they probably spend about 60 hours of work in the workplace. So these things, as they were playing out in the background, so then came the pandemic. And fortunately or unfortunately, it so happened that I got an opportunity to switch between industries during this pandemic. So I saw three very, very distinct situations actually panning out during this period. So the initial phase was about managing through the crisis, how organizations work towards protecting and preserving human capital and value. How did we manage the sudden transitions? People who are actually not really used to work on laptops, a very, very simplistic example I am citing. So they were sent laptops at home. People who never ever would have operated a printer, they were sent printers home. And how did we react and resolve these issues at that point in time become very critical. So what is the flag that you as individuals and budding professionals need to know? that the black swan movement can come anytime in our life. I think presumably for me and my colleagues of my age who are on the panel, we might have seen the last in our, at least in our work time, such kind of a huge disruption. For the youngsters or the youngistan, as we say, I think this is something that has given you an opportunity to be more prepared. How do you envisage such disruptions? Are we able to plan such kind of worst case scenarios in our planning? Has to become a very, very critical insight. It should essentially come from the HR function. Many of you would have also read that during the pandemic and its after effect, the HR function, which was usually not in the spotlight, really came into the spotlight. Why? Because there are certain competencies which were expected out of the human capital was to be configured and built and embedded into the system by the HR professionals. So when we spoke about resilience as a competency, so that got added to the competency framework of many organizations. So the HR professionals now need to actually learn a lot out of this entire pandemic. uh, and so it so happened that I entered into a second organization when we were into the second phase of the pandemic, which is about restoring stability. So, how do we regenerate human capital value, returning and reorganizing the workforce to restore stability, and enhancing HR programs to further support a dispersed work team? You know where the fight actually happened? It was the fight between the talent and technology. So all my esteemed colleagues actually spoke about that in great detail. Whether we look at all size, one size fits all, whether I do a copy paste, whether I follow what Ericsson is doing, or whether I follow what Dalmia is doing, uh, whether whatever I had experienced in my previous organization, do I just come and paste it and follow it? So that really, although might not seem very plausible as a solution, but that is a starting point for many of us. Today, we cannot afford to really say, oh, this is ArcelorMittal, they're global in size, they're multi-locational dispersed community, so they might have a different set of practice which is very unique to them. But please realize the people who are working for you are are not all ArcelorMittal die-hard fans. So an individual on an average would change about 27 jobs in his lifetime. So today, if I say that I don't give an opportunity for him to learn, this is how things are being done in a different organization. So he might tomorrow feel, oh, things are probably better somewhere else. So why not go and experience that? And finally, I would speak a little bit about operating post-crisis is about how do we deconstruct the job and reconstruct the job will become very, very critical. So when I talk about deconstructing, so the second example that I cited at the beginning was when Mercedes-Benz engines carried the name of the person who had assembled. So that really was an end-to-end participation or contribution to a job that you are doing. Today, it might happen that part of your job will actually be managed by machines rather than by you. So it is very, very important for the HR function and the HR fraternity to understand what all activities and tasks get deconstructed and what are to be reconstructed in a manner that we are not getting into the trap which was which Charlie Chaplin was forced into. If you really try to go deeper into the interpretation of the movie, it is actually talking about alienation. So when you are getting alienated from the job, your contribution to the job actually goes down. And the way the talent and technology equation is going to play out in the future, there is every opportunity or every chances of people really getting alienated. The second equation, as it would play out, is when you have dispersed or remote people working, the challenge of alienated workforce becomes more so evident. I might not feel part of the overall scheme of things. And then finally, we're talking about how do we revamp the work or the workplace. So two, three very important items that we
Sorry,
need to
Samar, we're going to be
appreciate.
almost inching towards closure, so you'll have to wrap
I'll
up.
just
And
take a minute. I think
yeah,
you've
please, a
given me
fraction of a second will be good.
9.3
Thank you.
minutes if I go by the time. So people's relationship to their work has changed. We are no longer willing to subsume everything for the employer. So all of us know that. We equally value family, we equally value our work-life balance, we equally value our hobbies. So the change that is going to happen is it's going to be more employee driven than employer driven. The power dynamic has actually shifted from the employees to the employee. Freelancing options are becoming more and more feasible and widespread and are getting, of course, recognized by statutes in our countries. And employees will have their choice of employees. So for the HR fraternity, we need to really understand how do we deconstruct and reconstruct the job in a manner that we are really inclusive. With the talent technology equation coming into place, we are not really alienating the workforce and making them part of it. And how do we manage with the so-called hybrid? The hybrid is not part work from home and part work from office. The hybridization that is going to happen is you will have a combination of full-time, part-time, gig workers, platform workers, part remote, part automated, and part manual kind of work. So the hybridization is actually getting deeper into the system rather than only at a very superficial level of working from home and working from office equation. So I think the HR professional, there's a big challenge in front of us to prove our capability and continue to be in the limelight that we have been forcibly brought into. With this, I thank KITians, wishing them all the
Thank
best,
you so much.
and thanks the panel
Thank you.
for such
Thanks,
insightful.
Samar. Really appreciate. Sorry, we just have 6 more minutes to go, so I'm going to move quickly to Debabrata. And Debabrata, we always save the best for the last, right? And you know that. And you, again, you've done a huge amount of your PhD thesis on employee experience. It'll be great to hear from you. What do you believe that organizations have to do towards building a learning environment that drives the skill and the culture shift, which will be much needed to be able to deal with the future needs, challenges, and of course, expectations that the organization has?
Thanks, Priyanka. Thanks for the opportunity. So first thing I want to just highlight that some of the fundamental parameters of the learning is going to remain changed. What are those things? One is that we all are adults, and adults always like experiential learning. They want to learn those things which are appealing to them. Okay, this is number one. And we cannot compromise the dream, the passion, and the interest of the individual. So the youngsters, when they are coming, or any experienced candidate who is available in the organization, I think we need to do an internal talent assessment or the calibration. Third important thing is that from a efficiency and effectiveness angle, we are moving towards resiliency. This is very important. So when we are talking of a learning mechanism, it has to be backed up with a planning wheel. What exactly is a planning wheel? Like we do in different businesses, we have got a mining business, we have got a pallet plant, we have got certain startup units, we have got aviation, we have got corporate function. So we are clustering what are the needs, what are the requirements for the next 3 to 5 years to come. Because the careers, these are going to be the career and the roles, the aspirations, the generation, the voice of the generation is going to change. Now, the way that we used to define our critical roles or the critical talent, this is also going to be changed. Give the talent what the talent wants. Make it flexible. 24/7, like the way is our agenda, like the way we are moving from work from home to work from anywhere. You can learn from anywhere also, the first thing, but that must be appealing to you. So the way we used to define our critical talents, that has got changed. There are some talents, there are some operations which are also important, and for their absence, we suffered a lot during our COVID time. Like a person who is handling my central payroll system, suppose he is COVID positive, and my BUHR cannot handle that role. At the end of the day, I cannot justify that to my business. This is number one. Number two is that when you are developing a learning mechanism, you need to approach 3 things. One is the knowledge set, skill set, and mindset, and backed up with tool set. That is the reason we realize that from a conventional SAP system, now we are migrating to S/4HANA system. We are creating new roles, we are creating new opportunities. So whenever youngsters coming to join us in our different business, we are mapping their interest, their proficiency level, their expertise level, their certification level. So as one of the speakers has rightly said, it is important to have a dream. It is important to have a dream career, but also work on a definite career. So the learning mechanism should bridge that gap between dream to destination. So between a dream to destination, the comprehensive learning agenda through different mechanisms that will be done through a comprehensive mechanism we call 80-20-10. 80 will be a conventional method or traditional method of learning, either through online platform or offline platform. We are giving stress to online platform, particularly for cluster-based learning. Like tomorrow, let's think in one of my plant is getting automated. So what my quality manager will do? Let's think of a situation that I have been given a mandate to actually manage a project remotely. That we have done during our pandemic time. We have set up one benefication plan. Now we are going to set up another benefication plan. So how can we actually build that capability within my people, to deliver to the expectation of the management? Third thing is the deeper business insights and the analytics is very, very important, because we are being asked by the business that are you sure that what are the things, like I can give an example. We have done campus interview through a virtual platform this year. Okay, but what is more important to analyze, what are the 3 or 4 critical skills I must look at to retain my people for a long run when I am doing any assessment? How robust will be my assessment? What should be my behavior of the high performers? And what are the mechanisms I should do? What are the policy and all the things I should devise in the organizations? So the HR needs to also have a comprehensive learning agenda, like the way the other business people need to have. If I look to the skills, yes, apart from the traditional way we used to define skills, we used to map the skills, we used to define our competency. Like now we have a broad categorization. First categorization is it's a cognitive skills. Second is the digital skills. Third is more about the flexibility and adaptive skills. These are the 4 segments of the skills we need to develop among our resources to take the challenges for the future. But most important is that to make people make it very attractive, make it very appealing, because culture of the learning has to be there. And it is possible only through a strong purpose, strong connection with the peers, strong connect with the resources. Because we believe first the organizational fit is important. Organizational fit you are ensuring during your robust talent assessment mechanism. Most of the organizations do. We are finding whether his competency or her competency is matching to our requirement, whether the research is culturally fit, that is one part. Second important thing, whether we can build a sense of belongingness. So the fit is contributing to the sense of belongingness. And once the sense of belongingness will be there, then we need to think about the connection purpose, which is to be shared, connection with the leadership, connection with the resources. And finally, if there is a deeper connection, then the individual will perform. So this is a comprehensive model, and this learning mechanisms we are driving through 80-20-10. 80 is through online, 20 is through mentoring support, and 10 is through the other mechanisms, through certification and other things that we are encouraging people to go through it by giving them a clarity. This is going to be the future roles. This is your present role, and you need to develop the capability. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pada. We're already at the hour now and time is already up. But again, a lot of thoughtful insights from you and of course from Samar previously. It becomes thought-provoking, right? For both the youngest time, but even all of us in the panel. Lots to learn from each other. And again, to me, if there's one learning looking at what the last 1.5 years have taught us, is really about how nothing that we believe is permanent is any which is permanent. And everything that we believed in was going to be a non-negotiable has been challenged to the core. So when you hear the CEOs talk about today, what brought in the maximum amount of digital transformation? Is it the CTO? Is it technologies? Is it digital? No, it's really about COVID and our mindset. So to me, the biggest differentiator is our mindset. But the organizations and the workplace of the future will really entail all of us to put our heads together as Youngistan, but also as corporate stalwarts to look at how do we drive the required flexibility, but meet business outcomes, ensure we're focusing on employee safety, well-being, and health, ensure that we are doing everything possible to drive work-life balance, but at the same time, we are meeting business objectives, right? Employees like all of you as Youngistan will be so keen to look at career and growth opportunities. So everything that we do has to be in that direction, that you get growth opportunities, not just in your current spot, but also the future spot as an organization. And I think like some of us said, employee experience and self-driven learnings are going to be extremely important. So hybrid working with curated learning opportunities and growth with job movements are going to be the way the future is going to be defined. And all of us together from the corporates and the student arena have to work together towards making it happen. So with that, I will say a huge thank you to all the panelists for a great contribution to this discussion. And again, I'm hoping that the youngest and you at KIIT have been able to get some insightful information from all of us and some thought-provoking conversations going all together, right? What's important is that all of us continue to co-create the outcomes that we need to achieve towards being successful in what the future holds. And the beautiful thing about the current new normal or the future is nobody knows what will make us successful. There's no empirical data, there's no proven expertise. There's no company X or Y who's ahead of company A or Z. So to me, it's really all about us creating and co-creating the future and learning it on the go. So with that, I will call it a wrap. If there are any questions that somebody wants to bring up, then I'm happy if some of the panelists can stay back and take some questions for the next 5 minutes, and then we will kind of close it. So I'm opening up for questions. While some of them are being responded to in the chat box, but if anybody wants to speak, please do that. And then Dr. Sumit, I'm looking at you. So we just call it a closure in another 5 minutes then.
Done, Priyanka.
Thank you. So any questions anybody wants to bring up, which hasn't been answered in the chat? We try to answer a lot of questions in the chat, but if there's anything else, or you want to speak to any of the speakers and have a question to what they shared, then please bring it up.
Ma'am, may I?
Please.
Ma'am, as I asked about the perks and benefits, and Veer Bharat sir answered that we are including the family members to our benefit programs. But from an employee point of view, do you think it is still beneficial? Because in an like offline workspace, employee get a lot of free time, or they usually multitask, like during a lunch they discuss and all that. But now they hardly get time to even get out of their rooms or in front of the laptop. So how is it gonna work? Because employees are loaded with work all the time, like and also, is it like giving us any efficiency, or is it decreasing only with time?
So Anand, again, I think some of us can chime in. I can share with you my experiences. So like I said, it's always easy to get into a trap and becomes difficult to switch off if you are looking at the computer all the time. And when you have nothing else to go, and the expectation from the people around you is that you're always accessible, right? So to me, like I said in the beginning, at the end, the buck stops as us. We have to start instilling discipline around how we work, when we work, how are we accessible, what will give us the right split between professional as well as personal well-being. If it's all about professional priorities and less about personal well-being, it's not a scalable situation to be in. It's not sustainable. So to me, we have to stop wearing the badge of honor and say that we work 36 hours out of 24, and that's something which will make us great. It wouldn't, right? And we've seen this over the last 18 months. Nothing is going to offset your compromise on health, on well-being, on work-life balance, or the family that needs time with you. So at the end, organizations are doing a lot of thought sharing and investments in policies to create well-being, work-life balance, and flexibility for people. But the buck eventually stops at the individual, and they have to start taking the real decisions and define what does it really mean for them, a combination of that. So Samar, I see your hand up, and then I think there's another, Ankita, you also have a question. So we go with your question, Ankita, and Samar, probably then you can add on to Ankita's question and your comment.
I really don't have a question. I wanted to respond to the question actually.
Okay, go ahead.
So there is this dilemma that yes, the productivity has gone up, but honestly, if you look at the business performance, it has really not reflected that the productivity has gone up. When your business revenues have gone down and people have spent more hours to achieve that, So that correlation, I think many of us in HR really do not want to interpret in that manner. And most of the time, it's what business drives that, okay, our revenue has gone down and people are really not working. Although you would have rightly, as you have rightly said, that people have been glued to their screens 24/7. So it's a question of how efficiently those productive resources are being used. And HR will have to lead it from the front by defining as to what is the productive measure and when people are really productive, whether being 24/7 connected really delivers value to the business or it actually does not deliver value.
Here, I would like to add on, Samar. I think since I worked for consulting organizations, I've been working. So I think those who have worked in consulting organizations, they know that there is a concept of timesheet. So I strongly believe, since I moved from manufacturing to consulting, so if we can keep on having a timesheet, end of the day, what I have done. So I think all the questions should be answered, and strictly we have been following it because it is linked to, the billing process. So the people who are in the manufacturing, they may not agree with me, but I'm sure everybody and every department can have the timesheet what I have done, end of the day.
I just want to add what he said. So apart from the timesheet, as he is right, in our manufacturing setup, for some of the corporate functions, even we are maintaining a weekly goal sheet. So in the weekly goal sheet, the immediate manager is tracking the progress. It is coming as a dashboard report. So along with the time sheet, the progress is on date on a weekly basis that is being reviewed. So as one of the earlier esteemed speaker has said, I think it is very difficult to establish the productivity has increased, decreased, but actually to track it in a very systematic way, we have started that initiative of tracking through a goal sheet. Thank you.
I just add two bits. Sorry, sir, you can go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, Ashish. Carry on, Ashish. Absolutely fine.
Thank you. I just have 2 cents. Somehow I do not agree to what we are discussing. And to my question, to the youngest son who asked this question, somebody asked me about pressure. So I told him the pressure is always there in the pressure cooker, not with us. Okay. So that is one. And my only point to you all, the youngest son, when we talk, you're not started, as we say, the flower has not blossomed also. Still it is there. You go out, you'll see the market, and you all are discussing about work-life balance as a question. My point is, how do you look at your career? You want to look it as a passion, or do you look it as a burden to earn moolah and 9 to 5 and then enjoy with your family? I was working 3 years with Qatar Airways, 4 days work and 3 days off. Technically, today I'm in logistics industry, 7 days. I have not seen a week off since I've joined in 3 months. So I am saying absolutely depends upon you. Let us not standardize. Specifically, if you're asking from an organization point of view, yes, we need to have a holistic approach towards the work-life balance to ensure the continuity for a longer time. But if it's asking about you as an individual, follow your passion. If you don't feel, don't do it. That's it. Thank you, Priyanka.
Thanks, Ashish. Very well responded. Ankita, we'll wrap it up with you. I know everybody's running out of time, but then let's take your question, then we call it a wrap.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. I had a question like many of us will be joining this year or in the next year, and our seniors have also joined in work from home basis. But the companies are talking about working environment, culture, values. Like in this transition phase, while we are working in home, how as a company it is challenging on your part to inculcate these values in the employees who are joining as freshers.
Thanks, Ankita. Valuable questions. Subrata, can I count on you to respond to this one? And Nikhil, and then we call it a wrap then.
You want me to answer, Priyanka?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I think even our company also, being an engineering, the steel engineering company, many people joined offline. But I think the culture is basically the sum total of many processes. So if we build up all the processes from your day of joining, HR has to play a major role, followed by the functional person. So if it is in place, I think the culture is built up and you will get the result from within 7 days, you will understand that what exactly we started picking up. Even I'm telling you, I have picked up a guy from KIIT, and I talked to him that you pick up an area which is very, very important, which is a coke oven. on that particular area, the resource, the skill is badly missing in India because the technology is controlled by China. So he is working from home today. From your college only, he is working from home. But at the same time, he is constantly under pressure. But the word which I heard that from day one, which Ashish has very categorically said, we have to decide how many hours. So this is also part of our value system. This is also part of our culture. This is part of our, the thoughts that at young age, I would sincerely request all of you to don't look at the hours this period. That is coming 15 hours, at least coming 15 years. And you will reap the benefit after 15 years if you stretch now.
Thanks, Subrata. Devanshika, you've been quiet. Anything you or Nikhil want to say as we call it a wrap?
A similar point. So when they say that, what are the cultural aspects? The same thing which I've already talked about. So it is a very inclusive thing which we need to make sure while we are handling students who are onboarded virtually. So imparting your cultural things requires a little time also. So as you have rightly said, that in 7 days you will clearly understand. Because of course, yes, you would be given few skill sets or few tasks which you need to accomplish. Along with the training. But even in the meantime, you'll understand that how are people behaving with you? What are they expecting out of you? In case in the first or the second day, you will clearly get an idea that what is the timesheet or the work as you're expected. So you may decide that in case if you want to keep it light from the starting, or as rightly said that initial 15 years, you want to work really hard to reap the benefits. It's a complete choice of an individual, how they want to mend their career.
Absolutely.
So adding to what Subrata and Divyanshi said, induction, why orientation induction is happening in an individual, for individual, it makes to understand what is the organizational culture and what is your understanding about the same. And it is the most important thing is a amalgamation between both of them. If it is you find a disconnect, it is better to disconnect immediately. Then reaping yourself and then talking about it till your seniors and colleagues for years together. So it is very, very important to see either you are a cultural fit and the organization is a cultural fit and you can work together for a longer goals.
Thanks, Devanshika and Nikhil. I think this is helpful. So again, we will wrap up now. Thank you so much to all the youngster and the students of KIIT and KIIT Leadership and Management for inviting us. I hope the session was insightful and you got some good thought-provoking inputs from us. And a huge thanks to you, Veer, Divyanshika, Nikhil, Subrata, Ashish, Samar, Debrata, for being a great panel and dealing with the time checks and for your insightful commentary as well. Thank you so much. Stay safe, everyone, and wishing you lots of success in your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's be in touch as well. Yeah.
You did a good
job.
Good job, Priyanka.
Thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Have
everyone.
a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the wonderful discussion. It was a delight listening to you, all of you. Thank you. Have a good day ahead.
Can I end the meeting now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.